Howdy ho ho, my good humans. How the hell are you doing? This is Unnecessary Rambling. I am Brandon Sylvia, coming at you from a slightly different time. We're dropping this on Sunday, hopefully, either Sunday or Monday, opposed to the usual Tuesday drop, changing it up a little bit, seeing if just trying to best fit our schedule, best fit the YouTube schedule. And hopefully this lines up for you guys, have something nice to watch on Sunday, as well as, seeing if the YouTube algorithm will give us a little kick for trying to switch it up, just trying to find our right place, our right footing for the podcast. And yeah, Loon, how you doing, brother? Pumped to chat some video games with you today. Got a pretty chill week this week
Yeah,
as far as video game discussion goes.
yeah, it was fairly light on the news, and as we said before, we obviously kicked this off. I've only played two things, and you've only played two things, so
Yeah.
not too many games.
Actually, I do got to say, I forgot. I have played I don't know if I wrote it down on our weekly document thing that we shared, the little Google Doc or Apple Doc, whatever it is. Um I did buy Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice
Oh, I
League.
no, I did see that. I did see that.
Yeah.
You didn't write it in the doc, but I saw it on your profile.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, on
I
the
was
X.
like, he's gone and supported them. But no, it was on deep sale to be fair. So
Yeah. 35
and
per
it I'm sure it has its ups and downs. I'm sure it's not like a terrible game flat out. I'm sure it has some points.
We can begin there. It was 35 bucks, 50% off. I was just like, I mean, I know it's gonna go down even more, but I really wanted to play it from the get-go, just to hope that there was something there that would click with me, because I don't know, every now and then one of these games come out, they get review bombed, people hate them, this, that, and the other. And even Gotham Knights, I found something to click with Gotham Knights, even though it wasn't good, but there was like enough there for me in terms of the story, in terms of the narrative, that I was like, all right, I played through it all, whatever, 25, 30 hours of it, which is a lot more than I think Suicide Squad is offering up, which I'm cool with. I should say out the gate, Suicide Squad is a pretty damn short game. I think I'm like halfway through it and I'm only 4 hours in.
Wow,
So
really?
yeah. And the narrative, the main narrative. There's an open
Yeah.
world you can go and fuck around and do all sorts of
So
repetitive ass shit that I'm not gonna do.
so it's not gated behind that. Usually when you have like a live service game like that, they wouldn't let you blitz through in 8 hours because they'd constantly put roadblocks of like do this mindless stuff, like 2 hours of grind so that you can get to this level so that you can compete to the next. Is that
It's weird because like that there's really no element of live service. Like you can feel them kind of pushing in that direction just with the main core moment to moment gameplay design. Like it's so looter shooter focused. Like it's
mm,
so goddamn repetitive in terms of the gameplay. By the second hour, I feel like in the first 2 hours, I saw everything that I've seen from the game to this point. You know what I mean? Like there's really not, you're shooting the same boring ass like purple alien creatures, and then they'll mix it up and throw in like some bosses. Like you'll go and so the main hook of the game is that you're the Suicide Squad. You're being contracted by Waller to go out and kill the Justice League because they're, corrupted and all this shit. Um, and she puts this bomb in your head, essentially. Just kind of standard Suicide Squad
yeah.
material. You go and do the mission for her, trying to kill the Justice League, and at any given time she can just kill you. So you're having to abide by all her rules and this, that, and the other. And so you'll take out like a boss, one of the main Justice League characters, and then the world will start populating with that boss, but like miniature versions of that boss. So you'll have like a bunch of little flashes running around that you got to take out and shit after defeat the Flash. And it's it just nothing about the gameplay after those first 2 hours really has like it just feels like I'm doing the same thing over and over and over again, which to be fair, like I'm playing as Deadshot. I have a jetpack. I'm the roaming around is fun. The technical performance is rock solid. The shooting feels nice, pulling out the sniper. You got one of the, which it's so, I hate it so much, but you have helicopters with like this purple orb on it, and you got to shoot the purple orb to do more damage. And it just, that alone, like, bothers me to my core. It feels so childish, which it's a superhero game, whatever. Um, but you shoot the purple orb, you do a bunch of damage, it explodes, you got XP numbers popping all over the place. You'll see like lucky sevens roll across the screen at certain times. Like it's so loud. The UI is so intrusive. Like people talk about Ubisoft UI being awful. This is 1,000 times worse than any Ubisoft UI I have ever seen in my life. But yeah, the that's a long-winded way of saying it's really not live service oriented at all. Like I think it's more just a co-op story that you can play through. I don't really know where the live service hooks are other than like
The
seasonal
injection of
updates.
yeah, the injection of content because I think the Joker thing come out recently. I believe the character that you could think it had like a ton of grind associated with him. I
Hmm,
don't know if you've seen that.
I haven't.
It was like hours and hours of doing the same tasks so that you could unlock him. So I don't know. It's a bit weird because they're really good at making stories usually. So for you to and the thing that like irks me the most about what you said is the fact that like you said you take the flash out for instance and then it just starts populating the world with
Little
that. I just
flashes.
yeah, I don't that's something that really irritates me. Like when I'm clearing a map, I want to know that the map is being cleared because that was like my one biggest gripe about Assassin's Creed Odyssey is when you did them battles and stuff and you were slowly turning the map one color. I thought that was going to be permanent just from like
Yeah.
a completionist mindset, and then you get like halfway down like the map and you start seeing it turn blue again in the north, and you're like, there's no point in like doing this. It's not giving me anything, and it's not actually progressing anything either. Like there's just no payoff. So
Yeah. It's a weird thing where like it kind of feels like these two elements of the game are at odds with one another, where the story is like this incredibly cinematic. I mean, some of the best character models I've ever seen. Like with Harley Quinn, dude, it's
mm,
crazy because she's so, she has so much makeup on. Like you can see the like pores in her face and shit. Like it's so detailed. And like I think the characters are really well written. I think the jokes are funny. Like the story so far is very engaging, but it's constantly at odds with just this gameplay design that feels like it's more suited for something that should be a service game, something that should have a battle royale or a, PvP, or like it feels like there's some, and it felt that way with Gotham Knights as well, where it's like Rocksteady, well, Rocksteady for Suicide Squad, you know, creating this world that feels like it should lend itself to a live service game, and then not really creating an actual live service game.
it's
And
because they don't want to make that game. It's
that's what I was
them
about to say.
crying. Yeah, it's them crying out for help. It's the same thing with Anthem and stuff. Anthem had all of these dialogue options and stuff, and you could see that, okay, that's BioWare at its core. Anytime you would leave that hub and stuff, it was just, you could see none of this was strong. No strong content, no understanding of how a live service game should be run. And that's the same with Gotham Knights as well. And I know, like, technically, again, with Suicide, they're not technically 100% live service like a Fortnite and stuff like that, but they're trying to be that. They're trying to morph them, and it feels like these other developers like Rocksteady are pulling back at the same time.
Yes.
They're not going full in because they don't want it to succeed themselves because then they will
Yeah.
be stuck making this crap. So they're just like, look, man, we need to just put in the bare minimum amount of effort into these activities and stuff, but show that the cinematics and stuff, and show that these are our strong suits. Because that's what you said is that the cinematics, the character models, the story, all of that is strong.
Yeah.
Everything else outside of that is subpar and weak.
It's really weird. I think you're 100% hitting it, hitting the nail on the head there is like it feels that Rocksteady and Warner Brothers Montreal, it feels like they created a template for where a live service game could exist, and especially with Suicide Squad, where you see the loot drop galore and just it's loot vomit. And it feels so live service oriented, but there's really not that element to engage with because like you said, I don't think those studios really want to create that, but they want to appease the corporate overlords and be like, look, we got the loot drops. Look, we got you can grind 7,000 hours. And but I to be clear, for the main story, you don't have to grind at all. Like not a drop. You can go
That's
from
good
main
then.
mission to main mission, beat the thing, and like I said, I've played it two sittings and I'm halfway through it, I would assume, somewhere close to halfway through it. And I've ran into no difficulty spikes in the main path, like no significant difficulty spikes in the main path, playing on the normal difficulty, and no like feeling that I need to go out and level up more. Anytime you go and take on one of the Justice League, there's usually a story mission that will lead you into unlocking the power that you need to take them out. So it's not like, okay, I need to be level 70 before I go and take out Green Lantern. It's like, no, I need to unlock this specific ability, this specific technology that I'll use to take out Green Lantern. And that's all unlocked through main objectives in the story. So I and there, like I said, it is kind of just fun to play as a turn your brain off sort of game. You can press R2 or RT, and it essentially like does your melee combat, but you as Deadshot, it's more of like a up close kind of quick shots, like you're pulling some, quick draw shots, and you'll bounce the enemy up in the air, almost like you're juggling them in Devil May Cry or Bayonetta, like a character action thing. So you bounce them up in the air, you pull out your rifle with your scope, bang, blast them, you kill them, like you can freeze them with those attacks. They have some cool mechanics tied, but one thing, the skill tree, it's like unreadable. The damn the font is unreadable. It's so small. It's like totally designed for, PC for playing on a monitor where you're like, you know, right up and hovering over that fucking thing. It's so small. You can't play it on the couch with a TV. So I don't even know half the time what the fuck I'm unlocking. But I get
Oh
some cool
God.
abilities, so fuck it.
The only thing I guess I'd further press is the price that you landed it at. Do you think that that was a good enough price, or would you say should it have been lower from what you've received as a product?
Yeah, so I to me, I think the story alone, I'm fine with the $35 price tag. It's been interesting enough. I I don't know really, and from a technical perspective, like it's shocking how good it is. And it's fun enough. Yeah, I think 35 is fine. I think 35 is fine. I don't really know, everybody's price preference is going to be different. Um, if you're a big fan of the Arkham games and you're wanting something else like that, you need to go in with the expectation set that this is going to be totally different. Like it's nothing at all like any of the Arkham games whatsoever. But they do continue off of that lore and stay faithful to that lore to a decent degree. Um, yeah, I don't know. I would probably recommend people waiting for a $20 price tag or so because I think that it'll get there pretty quickly. Like I don't think that this will
Yeah.
by I would say by October this will be probably 15, $20 easily. So if you have it in you to wait that long, no, I definitely would recommend that. But if you just really wanted to play the game, but you wanted to wait for a good price drop, this is a solid enough price drop, and I don't think it'll go back up. So, and I've already saw it on like Best Buy for $35 and shit. So you can get a physical copy of it as well for $35. So, yeah.
Well, I said that was the last question, but one more. Did you play Avengers as
Yep.
well? Which one stacks up better?
Oh, Suicide Squad's way better. Way, way, way better. I mean, the story in Avengers was just like, I mean, it was really, really rough. Really, really rough. You play as the characters you want to play as for like 2 hours. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Yeah.
it's pretty fucking boring. And also just like I think even the mission design in Avengers was worse. Like,
Hmm.
going and standing around this one area for a certain amount of time and taking out enemy. Like it was just that shit was really, really boring. At least with Suicide Squad, you got Metropolis. It's, open world. It's a big game. It Metropolis doesn't feel fully realized at all, but it's still more interesting than
It's
Avengers.
stronger than Avengers, yeah.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
that's at least a positive for fans.
Yeah,
DC getting one over on Marvel for once.
yeah.
What a
But
rarity.
I guess that's something I should preface as well. I much prefer the tone of this over the Marvel games,
Mm,
especially over the Avengers game, because that was just like, slop to me. It was like straight up just the worst of the worst Marvel style writing. And this is like it's not, it's not dark to the point of like I don't know if I've actually laughed out loud, but there were a few times I was like, huh, that's kind of clever. That's kind of silly. Like it's at least it has enough fucked up moments in there where you're like, okay, cool. This isn't totally trite, just tropey superhero horror shit. Like it's at least some interesting writing and interesting humor in there.
it helps because it's from Rocksteady, and obviously they had to have been some level of fans in there, considering they made, all them Arkham games. So they enjoyed the DC setting and stuff, so they know what they're doing from a writing perspective.
Totally, man. Yeah, it's not a bad game. It's not a bad game at all. For my experience so far, I'd say it's like a solid 7 out of 10. It's definitely not bad. I understand why people don't like it just because of how much people love the Arkham games and just wanted more of that. But removing it from that and just like kind of letting it be its own thing, it's like I couldn't see this being less than a 7 out of 10 for me personally. But I'm also like I'm not looking for a 30-hour thing or anything. Like I'm a okay. I'm actually pumped to know that it's going to end in a few hours, and not because it's bad or anything, just because I like games like that. I like games that are
Yep.
10 hours. I don't want everything to be a 20-hour, 30-hour, 100-hour game.
No, I think that's a good way of also handling that as well, of like it's not like a full, like you said, live service thing. Give the people that want that story, have it be fairly strong as well and keep it short. And then those that want to continue that repetition and grind and everything, they have that option so that you're appealing to. Obviously, it's not going to be the strongest of either of them because you're having to cater to both, but at least, you're giving something to both parties.
Yeah, totally. That is one thing that's kind of bummed me out is the lack of interior design, like the lack of interesting interior design. Because that's something that the Arkham games are just so strong about is giving you cool, interesting, like indoor locations to explore. You really don't get much of that at all with Suicide Squad. But yeah, not too bad. Like a solid 7 out of 10. But what have you been playing, man?
As I said, it's just two things for me, so I'll rattle off the first one because it was something I spoke about last week, and then I'll get to my meat, which was I had like two achievements left on F1 Manager, wrapped them up finally. I really, really, it makes me sad that these type of management games don't get any love whatsoever and just fly completely under the radar. And also their inability to know what the community wants as well. Because the reason the football manager games do so well is that it has a multiplayer component to it. You're able to set up like community saves and stuff and have, 20 people in one league. Almost it's like a fantasy football league, but you're playing through the matches yourself. So that's really cool. Whereas in unfortunately F1 Manager, it's all entirely single player. So once you kind of know the systems and stuff, there's only so much the AI can really test you. So once you've mastered it, it's just like, okay, it's just another race I'm going to most likely win, unless a 3% chance on a pit stop like screws me over and stuff like that. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I know that the what is it, F1 24, 25, that's releasing pretty soon, isn't it?
yeah, every May, I believe, is when that
Do you,
comes out.
do you ever dive into
Yeah,
those? Oh yeah.
yeah.
Nice.
I do a kind of like you with the WWE. I do like uh my team is what it's called. So it takes you into like a single player. You create your own F1 team. You as the driver and the owner. So you have control over what upgrades you want to go through, and then you also find a second place. And it also has like decent story stuff. They come in, they interview you and stuff.
Oh, nice. Eh, those often come to Game Pass, don't they? Because it's EA, right?
Yeah, eventually. They don't, it takes them quite a while because they're very reluctant because obviously they want that money. But yeah, about probably 7 months, 6 months after release, they put it into EA Play.
Nice. I'm gonna check out one of those one year. I've had interest in F1 for a while because I know I don't know if you know the comedian Bill Burr.
Yeah.
I was listening to his podcast a while back and he was like going on a whole, diatribe about how interesting F1 is. I was like, damn, I
It's
need to get into it.
so damn good. Like, I'd, it always felt to me like, because I'd always been more interested in like rally because it was more gritty and more interesting and it seemed more dangerous and stuff. But the more, and I always just thought it was just like an old man's kind of like golf, because you think you're just sitting there and you're watching them for like 72 laps.
Yeah.
And because I thought it was more in the line of like a NASCAR and stuff like that, it just didn't interest me. But it's so much better, man. Like they've got the Netflix series. I don't know if you've seen Drive to Survive. That's
Yeah.
so damn good. That's
I,
so damn good.
I think that's the thing that Bill Burr was talking about, that
Mm.
Netflix series. I need to watch that.
And right now as well, it's the perfect time to like be getting in because I'm sure you've heard of, the big dogs of like the past, like, Michael Schumacher and stuff like that, who dominated the sport back in the day, and Senna and everything. They've all retired, and this whole new blood's like come in. That's a bunch of what primarily dominates the paddock is like 25-year-olds and below, and they are
Nice.
just hungry. Like right now, we have somebody who's called Max Verstappen driving for Red Bull, absolutely dominating like the championship. He's 25 years old and he's on like course for like breaking every record there is.
That's
And he's
sick.
so likable. It's what's so great with like the whole modern age of stuff. They've got them doing stuff like with that Drive to Survive thing. There's so much charisma and everything. There's like, yeah, you have like your rivalries and stuff, but it seems like they're all friends. They all grew up karting together, so they have gone through that whole process and have all become professional at the same time. So there's a lot of
Yeah.
love there.
It's interesting, this new like digital age of, you know, more of a understanding of who these people are behind the scenes through social media and stuff. Because I don't know if you follow basketball much at all, but there's this woman named Caitlin Clark who she played for Iowa, and she's just like this sensation. Just, I mean, unbelievably talented. And I've never, really watched women's basketball at all, but she's like taken off through this digital age of people, kind of just being able to share opinions more. And like there's these little rivalries that have been going on. A lady named Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, they went to the women's championship last year and they had like this rivalry. It blew up on social media and it just, then more eyes got onto the sport. And it's just crazy how these sports that were once more niche are able to attract a main, like the women's national championship. I think it drew like 14 million viewers. And I
Mm.
think that before that, it was like somewhere in the 100,000 range. So it's like a crazy,
Yeah.
crazy explosion. And yeah, it's just cool that sports that were quote unquote more niche are now able to find quote unquote mainstream audience because when you got 8 billion people using social media, it's like, yeah, mainstream can be found a lot easier.
Well, it used to be viewed like F1 was like the rich man's sport. You could only become a driver if you were rich, and you could only watch it if you were rich.
Hmm.
And it's become more and more and more accessible. And as you said, it's moving out of that niche market and becoming a lot more mainstream. Like you've got Las Vegas Grand Prix now. That was like a massive thing. They've like signed a contract to keep them for many, many years and stuff like that. So it's like expanding out into America a lot more and becoming more well known. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. But yeah, I'd suggest checking out like the first season and stuff. These are going to be like previous seasons, just because they do season one is whatever, I can't remember what year it was, but that roster year, and season two is the next year and stuff like that. So the stuff that's happened has happened many years in the past, but you'll see like the fire and the passion and the cheekiness of these drivers is hilarious. Like even the
Is
team principals and stuff just absolutely roasting each other.
That's awesome. Is it like
Beautiful.
an annualized series? Like it comes out each
Yeah,
year? Oh, so
yeah,
they do it to hype up like the new crop and like get people's
yeah.
eyes on like the new
What
players,
it's what got me
racers.
interested. I was flicking through and saw it and ended up watching a season and it because I think it was like 2020 and I was like, oh, pick up the game. Like this looks really cool. Really good racing games, the normal F1 games, and then obviously seeing the manager and it's just yeah, I'm completely hooked.
Nice, dude. Yeah, I'm gonna have to check out one of those games at some point. I'm gonna I'm gonna watch the Netflix not documentary, I guess series, would you call it?
Yeah, they just record it each race weekend and stuff and just have them doing stupid stuff and then also doing behind the scenes stuff and then yeah, it
Nice.
shows like clips of the race if things go wrong and stuff like that.
So like say I watched the latest series, that would get me up to date with the latest roster for who's on the game
Um,
to some degree.
99%. Some drivers like they don't keep their seat for long at all. Like
Nice.
for instance, the management games had like Daniel Kvyat in the game and stuff, and he lost his seat very quickly and was replaced. So technically, he's in the game, but he's not a driver anymore.
Nice. That's what I'm gonna do then. I'm gonna watch the show and then I'll just dive into one of the games. Or I'll wait till it comes on to Game Pass, the new one.
Hmm.
Or maybe, if it goes on a decent sale, pick it up before then. But shit,
And
yeah, dude.
hopefully you'll become a Verstappen fan because
What's
the
that?
guy is the guy
The,
who's winning
oh,
like
okay.
almost every. He's a freak of nature. Like this guy is so good, right? That he's almost losing it. It bores him. He wins that much. He was up at 4 in the morning playing on a race simulator like game on the day of the race that he was meant to be
Yeah.
doing. Like he's that just good.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I should probably go to sleep now, guys. It's 4 in the morning. I gotta like go to practice at, like 8 and stuff like that. And it's just like, dude, you're racing at the top team. You're like top in the championship. You should be taking this a lot more seriously.
Dude, yeah, that behind the scenes knowledge of these players, or racers, drivers, whatever you want to call it, that really is a huge component to the rise of these sports becoming more quote unquote mainstream. Like, yeah, I could go on and on because I've actually like been watching interviews with like WNBA players and shit, hearing like what their take is on Caitlin Clark coming into the league, and like there's these like small kind of shady rivalries going on where they don't really want to say what they feel, but you can tell how they feel. Like it's it. It's cool that new sports are kind of catching fire, and I'm all for it. Um, but shit, yeah, man. So you got the plat or got the 100% on that
Yeah, I got the
one.
100% on that. And
Nice.
yeah, the only other thing that's kept me gripped and hasn't let me play anything else is went and picked up Baldur's Gate 3 again. Because I saw that Larian did like the interviews and stuff about what they were doing, not adding obviously content to the game now. So it felt right because it wasn't 100% confirmed like months ago whether or not they were going to do DLC. People assumed that they would go through. So it was kind of like that thing of, well, if they're going to add more stuff, I'll wait. because these are such long games. It's very, very unlikely I'm going to drop like 150 hours into a campaign and then be like, yeah, and I'll drop another 150 just to get to like the entrance point of the DLC and stuff. But when they said that, I was like, okay, this is the perfect time. And oh my God, like, because I mentioned it before about how like I have to play CRPGs of like dipping 20 hours here and there into different classes before like settling. Each of these classes that I dipped into, I saw vastly different things because I was making different choices. And there's so much variety in that first act where you can miss out on entire like plot lines and stuff. And it just blows my mind like how much change can happen. And
Are
it's
you
just, go on, sorry.
are you in Act 1 now, or have you moved on to Act
I've
2?
literally just gone into Act Two like last night. So it
Nice.
took me 35 hours to get through Act One. I've heard Act Two is about 50 hours, and then Act Three is like 20 hours.
70
Because
hours to go.
Act Three is about, you know, everything is coming to its climax. So it's very, very action packed and stuff like that. But even like Act One is like you get a massive amount of area because it has, let's say, like 3 maps worth. There's obviously small like loading screens for like caves and stuff, but like 3 primary maps worth of like content. And there's so much stuff there hidden and tucked away and stuff. And then you get to Act Two, and it's from what I've found so far, it's primarily like 1 map, but it has like an interesting thing going on, and it's also got some of the most interesting like weird. I wouldn't say like maybe mini bosses and stuff, encounters and stuff like that. Like you end up going into like this almost Silent Hill hospital thing
No
with this
way.
doctor. And you the beauty of it obviously being D&D, you don't have to be the person to kill them to get them like out of your way. Like this guy is like completely lost his mind and is trying to convince people that torture is like beautiful and stuff like that. And he's teaching these nurses that he's like brainwashed. And he's like, okay, now it's your turn as he points to like your party and stuff. And he's like, we'll practice on you. And you can just be like, well, why don't they practice on like the master? You know, if they're gonna get any like form of learning, maybe they should be doing it on you. And he like sits there and ponders, and obviously you do your dice roll, and if you succeed, he's like, why didn't I think of that? And he drags the body off the table, lays on the table, and he's like, let's go. And they just stab him to you don't even need to do the boss fight. You've convinced him to just
Dude.
fold. And it was just like, oh my God. And it was so brutal. It's not just like a roll and then he's like dead. It shows the whole cutscene of him getting absolutely like torn to shreds.
So
And
is
it's
it
just,
like a similar thing with Dragon Age where you can level up your charisma all the way and you'll have a higher likelihood of rolling successfully for the
yeah. So when it does these checks and stuff, you have the normal lines of dialogue that are just text. And then when it's a skill check, it will say like a specific thing. Like for me, I'm a rogue, so it'll be deception. So that'll be in like brackets and stuff. And then you're able to click the stick and it will show you that you're going to be rolling a d20, and then any of your bonuses of your class will be taken into consideration. So if you have deception, you'll get a +2 on that roll, and persuasion and stuff. So these all bonuses like stack up, and then it will say like a difficulty modifier of what it is that you need to hit. So he was it was a fairly difficult thing to convince that man to sit on the table. So I think it was like you needed like 24 or something. And you roll it, and obviously it takes it into consideration. So if you fail, then that's it. Like it will just play out normally. You do have a system which is called inspiration, which is if you find like significant lore pieces or do things related to the character's backstory, they will give you the ability to re-roll that dice for a second shot or third shot, however many inspirations you have and stuff like that. And the beauty of D&D as well is that even if it was like you had no bonuses and it was like a 30, for instance, you only have a d20. It would be impossible to reach 30 But if you do hit 20, that's just a nat 20. You pass regardless. If it's a one, you fail regardless of whatever. It doesn't matter about your bonuses. It's just a critical fail. So that it's amazing.
Yeah.
And they've captured it so damn well because they obviously had the original Baldur's Gates, but they did a lot of that stuff behind the scenes. It was
Right.
all generated and stuff. Whereas this, it's a whole menu that pops up and you roll the dice, and it's just so much beautiful.
Yeah. I can't wait to get my hands on that damn thing. I have no idea when it's gonna arrive, but I'm pumped to check it out, dude. So this is like it for you. You're definitely going through with this specific
Yeah,
build, the rogue.
yeah,
Nice. Nice. Shit, yeah.
yeah. I
So,
just can't put it down. Like, because I tried the so I said about Have a Nice Death had like the input things if you didn't have a
mm,
wired thing, and I ended up picking that up, and it arrived yesterday, and I played like 2 hours of Have a Nice Death. But it just is scratching at the back of my head, like go back to Baldur's Gate, go back to like it's so powerful. And because even the choices that you don't make, you can already sense how strong they are at influencing the story and stuff. Like you make a big choice and you're like, this is like a massive payoff and a massive thing they're making out of it. So you know that that other choice would just be as equal and would change the world drastically. And that's just crazy to me.
can you like create a character and min-max them to the point where you are like straight up just a charismatic motherfucker and you can kind of talk your way out of most things? Or
Yeah.
nice,
Yeah,
that's
you
my
could be like a scoundrel. You also have, because you can customize, there's loads of accessibility options. You have something called karmic dice as well that you can enable in the options menu, where it eliminates, I would say, 95% of the possibility of getting like really, really, really bad rolls back to back. So obviously you could still roll a one, but if you had that turned off, if you then used your inspiration, it is just completely down to chance. You could just keep rolling ones if
wow.
if the computer screwed you over that way. But you could turn that on and it would be like, okay, you rolled a one, maybe you roll a one again, but it will not happen the third time. The game will just
Right.
forbid it and will not let that happen. It will be like, okay, we'll throw you a bone because it's all about, customizing. That's the whole point of D&D. You customize your adventure.
Right.
So, and they thought about that. They didn't have to do that. They could have just been like, well, it's down to a dice roll, but they're just like, we want as many people to get this into their hands and enjoy it in the way that they want to enjoy it.
That's
Because
sick,
they
man.
have they have like even the difficulty options. It's all sliders. Do you want to take normal crit damage 2 times, or do you want to just bump that down and not have to worry about that and do this and do that? It's all sliders and stuff.
Nice. So I can pretty much like make it because really the experience I want to have is minimal combat and
Hmm.
maximize the amount. I want to see because like what I really want to do is I want to stick to one specific run where all of my choices kind of domino effect. Like I don't want to save anything. I want to like experience my gut reaction to the choices I would make and see how they all domino effect into one another. And but I don't really want to like I don't want to make a wrong choice and then be in some because I've heard that some of these battles can be long as shit, like 30-minute battles.
Yeah. To be fair though, it's also down to how well you read the situation. If you're in the middle of like an enemy's fortress and you get there by talking your way and then you piss off the leader, what do you expect is gonna happen? He's
Right.
gonna say everyone get him. Like it's so there's that. Um
And I mean, worst case scenario, you can save scum.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, of course you can. But that's the beauty of it is that I haven't I don't I've not felt the need to do that.
I hate doing that.
When I've done something in this run and stuff like that, and it's just felt like, well, that's the choice. It's why I don't usually like replay Telltale games and stuff. The choices I made, that's the head canon in the story of my brain. Like that is what that story is. There is no other option. So there's been like major character deaths in my playthrough, and it's just like, well, that is it. That's my Baldur's Gate story
Right.
and stuff. Like I'm pissing off gods. I'm getting in people's bad books and stuff. And but I'm mainly just yeah, I'm snaking my way through like enemy encampments, getting close to them, and then just shivving them in the neck and stuff like that.
That's so
It's
sick,
so
man.
great. It's so great.
I can't wait to check that thing out. I'm really, really pumped. I know it's not necessarily my style of game per se, but I feel like I'll end up jiving with it just because, like you said, if they're allowing you to kind of create the adventure you want to have, I have a hard time seeing myself not being able to find something in it that really clicks with me.
Yeah, you have the custom characters that you can create, or which is what you'll probably do, or you can just select the named characters and stuff like that if you wanted a hands-off approach.
Yeah, I love creating a character. I don't really ever go like super in depth with my character creation. I just kind of create something that looks somewhat like uh my wishful version of myself, and then I just kind of run with it. I know some people they've went in there and created like full on, Geralt recreations, and like it's
Mm.
crazy to see how much effort and how much is possible within that character creation suite. But I've never been the type of dude who really spends a lot of time in the character creation suite. But I
No,
always like having it there though.
yeah, no, it's always an incredible because like even like Dragon's Dogma 2 to throw that game an extra bone, like its character creator is incredible. Like the things people made from that. Like obviously they could make Resident Evil characters because they were from the RE engine and stuff, but you had like Kratos and stuff like that, so that's always great. But that's never something I personally do. I'd never make it look like me though. I will admit that. Like it's always like the guy I've got in Baldur's Gate 3 looks like a young version of like Dr. Emmett Brown from Back to the Future. Is what I settled, and I was like, man, that is a rogue hairstyle. Let's go.
I
So,
I
yeah.
know that this is like a whole different topic, but like, cause I know you've seen this. It's been everywhere. Like all the people just losing their mind about characters not looking as hot as they used to in video games, this, that, and the other. And while I think that is absolutely ridiculous, like I could give a fuck less, but I will say I always like, regardless, dude, chick, whatever, I'm always going to create the hot, like if it's a character creation, I'm just going to create the hottest possible, the hottest possible option. And I mean, and I think that I don't know, I guess naturally people want to control characters, or you want to see attractive, like that's why when you look at
you
Hollywood big budget actors, they're usually pretty hot.
you're going to be spending 100 hours with this character if you don't want to be looking at something that's hideous.
Yeah.
Like it's just a fact. Like you want something that's pleasing to the eye.
Absolutely. But then again, on the other end, it's like I don't really care if a character, like if it's a pre-made character and they created it for a specific reason, and it's like, okay, they want to make Lara Croft in the reboot a little bit more gritty, so they don't make her as overly exaggerated as the original games. It's like I get that. Like I get the tonal decision why you went that direction. You want to have a separation tonally and make it feel more gritty and more realistic. Like I'm totally fine with that. But yeah, if I'm creating a character, I'm creating a dime piece. Rather it be a dude, a chick, whatever, I'm creating a hottie.
All of them companions are very pleasing. No, there's no uglies,
Yeah.
both male and female. My God, Astarion is he's so he just flirts with anything that moves. It's like Jesus Christ, dude, stop.
Yeah, dude. Every character I mean, it like the real life actresses as well. Smoke and him as
Yeah,
well. Whenever he was
Neil
up on stage,
Newborn.
yeah,
Yeah,
great looking dude, man.
he's so in love with the character, and that's what I love as well. Like some of them, they enjoyed the role, like the person who played Lae'zel and even like Shadowheart, but they were not as enamored as him. He
Yeah,
is like he is like, dude, Astarion is my baby. Like when they were interviewing, he's like, I'm really like almost on like the verge of tears that they're not doing anymore with Baldur's Gate 3. But please, like at any point you want to like have me reprise the role, I will be there at the drop of a hat.
that's
Like he
so sick.
loves that character. It's his. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I
What a game.
appreciate it. I appreciate the shit out of how when a character gets really invested or when a performer gets really invested into their role like that. Like I know I don't even think I included it, but like with Geralt with Henry Cavill, like how he was so like I want to do it down to the letter of the law by the book.
Yep.
He was so invested in it. And I don't know, that's just such an appealing characteristic for someone to have where they're like that committed and that like they're it's like precious to them. You know what I mean? I really appreciate that enthusiasm.
Yeah, it seems like obviously we have movie actors that feel that way, but it feels a lot more of like a gaming voice actor thing that people get really attached to these characters and stuff. Like even like obviously rest in peace, Lance Reddick. Like that guy was a champion. Like acting aside of like what he did in movies and stuff, incredible. The stuff he did for games and how passionate he was about it. Like the dude made a recording booth in his home during COVID because he was that dedicated to like the Destiny 2 character that he voiced. He was like, I want to be, we're still obviously having to develop content for this game. I'm not skipping this. I'm here. Let's go. Like I'm there. I want to be there. Like
Yeah.
that always adds to like the loving the characters even more.
They are replacing his Destiny character with Keith David, if I'm not mistaken. Keith David is going to be doing the
It's a pretty good swap. They
that's a
both have
great
extremely powerful voices, so
yeah. Dude,
yeah.
Keith David in Saints Row. I know that's not like the
Mm.
performance most people are gonna remember Keith David for, but so iconic. But
He was in the original one, wasn't he?
yeah,
He was the one of the original like head honcho gang
leaders.
members.
Yep.
I think he also come back for Saints Row 3 for one
He
of the characters as well.
yeah, he definitely came back for one of the Saints Row
Or was it
games.
Saints Row 4? It might have been 4
It might have
actually.
been four because of the crazy
Yeah,
alien. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It might have been.
Man, what an
Um,
actor as well. Just top actors. If we go get them all in a game together, guys, you'd have like the best roster ever.
well, I mean, dude, it's so crazy what they're doing now. You're talking about Keanu Reeves and Idris Elba sharing the screen
Yeah.
together in a video game. It's like, what the fuck can be possible? Did you see Keanu Reeves is going to be uh uh
In the
Shadow?
Sonic movie? Yeah.
Yeah.
With the Sonic stuff. That's amazing. They were interviewing Idris Elba over it, and he's like, hell yeah.
Once again, I didn't even damn, I didn't even link that. They're back together in it. That
Yeah.
is another video game kind of crossover world where Keanu and Idris Elba are hanging out again.
And they
That's so
both have like
gangster.
stellar reputations, so I'm sure they're going to enjoy each other's work and being back together, working together.
Yeah,
Hell yeah.
they seem cool as shit, man. So yeah, Baldur's Gate 3, dude, you're powering through it. You think you're what are you thinking? This will be kind of a game you play throughout the year, or is this going to be something you
No, I'm
close up?
blitzing through this like before Elder. Like, I'm sorry, Dragon's Dogma 2, but like the Baldur's Gate 3 has way more allure right now. So
Nice.
I think Dragon's Dogma is getting benched. Not that it's bad, it's just not Baldur's game.
Dude, I
So I
was
don't know how much, because like I said, I don't know how much longer I have left. About 40 hours into the save. Depending on how much side stuff you do, obviously extends or lessens the amount. But I'm trying to do everything. Like I'm going through that quest log and I'm like rattling off these things. I'm even going as far as you can only have a party of four. And obviously they each have their own stories that you're trying to do. I'm swapping them out and going back through like the map and seeing like for instance, there's this like devil that wanted to talk to Astarion and everything. You make camp and I'm like, get back in there, Astarion, let's go. And you talk to him and everything and just progressing it. So I just want to see everything that it has to offer. I don't want to miss anything.
well, let me ask you this. So say you did, because I'm a Golden Path gamer. Uh I like going through the main story and focusing in on the main story, which I assume Baldur's Gate 3 is like one of those games like The Witcher where I'll just get lost and say fuck it. Um, but
Um, I'll
Is it
quickly
possible?
interject with that. I don't think you would not be able to blitz the story
Hmm.
because the goalposts they set are like a web almost. You kind of need to do a lot of things to then get to that next point. Like you're eliminating all these options, and then you're like, okay, next area, and then you eliminate all these options, and then okay, next area. So I don't think you'll be able to like blitz through it. Particular, but everything in that game is so rewarding to do.
So you think like the quickest playthrough somewhere around 70, 60, 70 hours?
I think yeah, about 60 hours would probably, if you're as long as you're like paying attention and not skipping dialogue and stuff, you'd probably, yeah, if you were solely focusing and trying to cut as much of the fat as it were, probably about
Yeah.
60.
And you don't feel like there's really any fat though, like in turn, obviously I understand what you're saying, but you don't think there's
Uh,
really anything you've done where it's like, damn, I wish I wouldn't have done that. That took 2 hours of my time and nothing rewarding came of it.
the closest to that would be an encounter with a like a character that you can either befriend or kind of fight, and I chose to fight them.
Oh, but that's
And they had,
rewarding in and of itself, kind of because it's a
yeah,
choice.
but their like lair was really fucking annoying to navigate through,
Uh,
like filled with like really annoying traps, and it was just like, I can't wait to get to the end of this damn thing and kick the shit out of you.
how easy can you make it? Like, can you make it to where you're just running through this thing? Like, if you get trapped in a layer and you're like, dude, we gotta speed this up. Can you crank the difficulty way down and just breeze through it?
Um, well, you have so many things at like your disposal. Like it's me wanting to explore every corner. It didn't help because, for instance, what I could have done, you have so many scrolls and stuff. You could just be like, just give your party the ability to fly and
Oh
just fly
wow.
over these traps. Or Misty Step. Misty Step is whatever your vision range is. So you have like your radius, you just teleport to that wherever you can see and stuff like that. So you're fully capable of guys. It's just me wanting to loot every, there's a dead body over there. They might have some gold. It's just the greed aspect. It's making aggro for my own self in
I got
parts,
you.
but that's probably the weakest part of the game I felt. But even then, that was like it had a really cool story attached
Story.
to it. The character was interesting. You get heavily rewarded, and there's major consequences that seep into like the next act as well. I wouldn't say major, a
Yeah.
little bit less than major, but there are things that seep in.
You always hear people say stuff like, gameplay is king, this, that, and the other. And I agree 99% of the time, but I am kind of a weird exception with my personal play or personal preferences where I do prefer a better gameplay than a better story, but I'll usually never finish a game based on gameplay alone. But even if I don't really like the gameplay and I love the story, I'll usually finish that game. Like the Dragon Age games. Like I wasn't crazy about any of the gameplay in those games.
I think it's what's going to drag you through it
Yeah.
because of us being big BioWare boys. Like, you think, like, yeah, the main story in Dragon Age and Mass Effect is good, great, even in parts. A lot of the enjoyment comes from the companions
Hmm.
and just the back and forth banter and doing their loyalty quests and stuff. That was some of the greatest content in Mass Effect 2.
Oh my
Is doing
God.
all of their loyalty quests so that you could do that suicide mission at the end and succeed.
Yeah.
And that is exactly like I'd say Baldur's Gate 3 absolutely knocks out the park. It does it better than BioWare ever have.
That's crazy. Because I think back to Mass Effect 2 a lot because I always say I hold Mass Effect 1 to a higher regard, but it's crazy in my brain. I can name every single one of those characters and I can name every single mission you go on with them. And I can
Mm.
like I have instant recollection of all the events for all of those Jack, Jacob, Moran, like all of them off the top of my head, Thane, like all of them. And it's that is such a testament to a game that, well, I guess I was going to say I haven't played in years, but I actually did play that trilogy remaster, so I guess that kind of goes. But I can't sit here and spout off everything that happens with Mass Effect 1 and the companions for that game. So it is just a testament to Mass Effect 2 and how highly replayable and how also just highly detailed and high quality those companion quests are.
I think the thing that wrapped it together so well, and it's why Mass Effect, I feel like they should have saved the suicide mission, Mass Effect 3,
3, yes.
because that whole plot thing and everything revolving around that and having that payoff is what made that game stand out in the three of them. The first game, you have the introduction of the enemy. The third, you have a very bad way of ending the enemy. And that second is like, dismantling what would probably be considered, like a top lieutenant and proving that you're right as well.
Yeah. It
So, yeah.
it would have been cool if they did like a suicide mission in Mass Effect 1, a suicide mission in Mass Effect 2, and then like the suicide mission in Mass Effect 3, where it's like the entire crew, like everything kind of leads up to this one moment. All of your decisions are going to matter at this very final act. Whereas with Mass Effect 2, it just, you couldn't, there was no way to really follow that ending up. That was one of the greatest endings ever.
There's there's no like failure state, really, is there? Like in Mass Effect 2 for Mass Effect 3. Like no
No, you
matter
just
what
make a
you do,
choice.
exactly. Whereas
Yeah.
even like Baldur's Gate 3, there are ending states. There are so many ending states.
Yeah.
Like whether it's done through certain interactions, even one of the companions, like his whole thing is built around something that really importantly needs to be dealt with. Otherwise, it will end the game. And that is also just having that, like, I like failure states just being there and stuff like
Totally.
that, and just being able to, because obviously you can always reload a save, worst case scenario. But it's just nice knowing that, okay, that's technically not where the playthrough will end.
Totally.
But that is a massive consequence. Like if you're not taking it seriously or you don't take the character at their word, and then they're like, okay. And they
Yeah.
do. They can just end the thing, and it's just like, okay, cool. Wow.
Well, and it's like even the Telltale games, I hate to throw those in the mix because it's not like quite as impactful, but like even that illusion of choice, like it means so much just to present the option of being able to change something in the story, even if it really doesn't mean shit. Just giving the player the illusion of like, oh wow, I have an impact on what's going on right here. Like it makes you so, and you know what? That actually, are you good on Baldur's Gate
Yeah,
3 or is that?
otherwise I'll be talking about it constantly.
But
Move
it's
me on.
actually no, you're good because it's actually a really good tie into Harold Halibut. Um, Harold Halibut came to Game Pass. I played through it, finished it, and it's really weird coming after playing through the entire Walking Dead series and then going to an adventure game that feels like I hate to say this, but it feels like Telltale got the adventure game genre right, and anything outside of that mold just doesn't work for me anymore. And I'm not saying this is a knock specifically on Harold Halibut. It's just the adventure game genre whenever you're not given agency in what takes place. Like I understand you have a linear story of point A to point B to point C, like a story that you want to tell in a direct manner. I get that, but man, whenever the entirety of the gameplay is just to walk and loop back around, talk to a character, cutscene, loop back around. I'm just like, why do you need me here for this? Like, this could have been a movie, could have been a TV show. Like, what am I here to do? And I think the combination of TV show, movie, but also giving the player agency over the plot line, like the Telltale games, I think that's why it revitalized the adventure game genre. And I think we're consistently seeing this genre just fail to reach the heights that it was taken to with The Walking Dead when it came out in like 2011. You know what I mean? And a lot, I think a big part, and I know it's kind of different. This is more in line with your walking sims, more in line with like a point and click game. You do have full control over your character, and you do get to explore some badass, 3D spaces, and the setup of the game is actually pretty interesting. Um, you're on this like ship, and you're like you're on an ocean of like this alien planet. You're in this ship. Earth is like completely inhabitable. Like Earth is no longer, you can't survive living on Earth. And like there's, I believe, some mission taking place. Like there's some scientists on the ship who are trying to figure out how to repopulate Earth, trying to figure out how to make Earth a viable, trying to figure out how to make Earth get back to
Habitable again.
viable, yeah,
Yeah.
viable living conditions, make it habitable again. And like that plot is really cool, but I felt that, and they try for a humorous tone at times. It never really landed for me at all. Like the humor never really landed for me at all. I never really felt any connection to these characters. Their character arcs just felt so drawn out. Like it's I think it probably took me 10 hours or so to finish it, and I could easily chop 6 hours off of this thing. Like easily this could have been 4 hours and it would have had a much stronger punch, much stronger impact, in my opinion.
Is that 6 hours? Is that because of the walking and the
Yes.
backtracking? And oh my God, that was my worry about him. That and the complaint I saw, like with what you said about the comedy not land. Apparently, the delivery of lines just felt very dry, and it just lacked like the what's the word? It's just it lacks interest in what they're trying to convey as a message, and it doesn't draw your attention in all that much like it should be doing. The things that they're giving you, the information and stuff, it just you end up just kind of pushing it aside in your brain. You're like, okay, cool.
Well, that's the funny thing, Luna, is that like the actual story is kind of compelling, but it takes so long to get to the compelling part. Like it's probably 6 hours before the big reveal happens. And you're playing as this dude, Harold Halibut, and he's like this handyman, but he's so down and out and he's down on his luck. And like you do kind of want to see that turn around for him, but I don't want to wait 6 hours for, that to turn around. Like, goodness gracious, man. And it's not like he's sitting there complaining the entire time or anything, but I'm just walking around as him. I'm cleaning walls. We're like graffiti. And it like that's the weird thing is there's satisfying gameplay elements that make no sense why they're so satisfying. Like just unscrewing bolts to these little panels. Like there's some sort of satisfying response to these very, very small gameplay encounters that you get that are very minimal, very, very minimal. You even the cleaning, like when you're going around, just cleaning the graffiti off the walls, like they somehow they make a lot of that stuff actually satisfying, but there's so little of it to do. There's so little actual gameplay. Like I would have kind of been more satisfied with just doing some of that shit on a more regular basis and cutting out some of the story and just getting to the good shit quicker. I don't
That's
know.
really not a good testament for the game.
Yeah,
Saying that you'd rather scrub walls than
hear the
man,
story. Yeah.
yikes.
It's like like listen, if you love walking sims, you'll probably you'll probably get some enjoyment out of this. If you're very, you enjoy scientific discovery and experimentation and all of that shit, then there's some cool elements in here as well. But for me, it's like a solid six, low 6 out of 10 game. Like I would not recommend this to most people. If you have Game Pass and you just want to kind of boot it up and try it out, sure. And I mean, that's the thing is this art style, when you see it initially, you're like, oh my God, this is so unique. This claymation,
Mm,
this handcrafted stop motion visual aesthetic. Like you don't get that in any other game. Like it's the first time it's as far as I'm aware, it's the first time it's ever been done to this level. And it is beautiful, but it's still a video game. Like you still have control of these characters. You still have to like make that part engaging. And
yeah.
after about an hour, all that it loses all its luster. The holy shit, I can't believe what I'm looking at is gone. And you're left with a game that doesn't really do much ever. And yeah, I was, I was really looking forward to this, but
Yeah.
it did not do it for me at all. I did finish it, so I guess some testament to it, but
It's what was worrying me about it. It was something that looked good, and I was like, maybe I'll check it out. And then obviously the reviews kind of piled in and saying that it felt like a slog. I just knew that I don't know if I'll end up booting it up myself because I know that if it's that long and that slow, and there's no like the way I'm envisioning it is that they've put the hook into you, but they're not pulling anything. They're waiting for you to walk back to the rod, as it were. And it's just like,
yeah, yeah, pretty much that's pretty much it. It's they do a couple cool things later on in the game that I won't reveal, and I do think the main hook is fucking really, really cool. But to make someone wait 6 hours to get to the one mildly interesting thing about the game, and then for that to really not have it has a cool payoff, but none of it feels worth 10 hours in my opinion. That's the thing, because it's not like, people listening to this, there's no real financial investment. If you have Game Pass, you pay fucking $15, and if you're already paying for it, you just boot it up. It's really the time investment is the thing that I would if it was a 4 hour game, I'd be like, yeah, sure, go check it out. But a 10 hour game, I, I will say, if you are someone that suffers from insomnia, if you are someone that suffers from an inability to fall asleep, this thing will put you to sleep. I and I'm not trying to be too dismissive.
mm,
I understand that these style of games are for some people, and even me at certain times, like Fort Solace. But that was the thing. Fort Solace, walking sim, 4 hours, in and out, cool story, punchy, done. Man, if you need to go to sleep, this game will put your ass to sleep. I fell asleep twice while playing this thing.
it feels like how I envision old school horror games with how you've looked at what Telltale did to the genre. They streamlined it, they polished it up, and that was kind of the thing that you need. Like tank controls to me are inconceivable. I don't think you can put them in games really anymore and have mainstream success, I should add. Obviously, you can make them. I don't think they will ever be like game of the year contenders. It's just never going to happen. It can't happen because it will not gel with the majority of people. So to have this kind of more of an old school take of because that's a lot of them point and click it, they didn't respect the player's time and it was just you play by our rules or you don't finish the game. It's as simple as that. And it's kind of that mindset, but they've opened it up so that you're walking around these environments fully, is what it feels like. But you're playing by their rules and it's you'll take the time that we want you to take. And it's very dangerous doing that because now that's going to be pinned on to whoever that developer is. And their next game, if they end up making one, depending on how well Harold Halibut did, that's going to be a stigma that's kind of going to be looming over their head.
Well, do you have anything else that you've been playing? Is that a
No,
wrap?
that was just the two.
I want to tie what you just said into and kind of going out of order here, but we'll go ahead and jump into the news because Fallout season two is officially confirmed that we are getting a season two. But I that's not really a surprise at all. The first season was a smash hit, yada yada. We all get that there was going to be a season two, but what you just brought up is the more interesting tidbit than anything to me. When you're talking about, there's not going to be a tank-based survival horror game with those archaic controls that finds mainstream success. Absolutely not. And you know that is my shit. Resident Evil 2 from 1998 is my favorite game ever. I love that game so much. Still to this day, I think it's infinitely replayable, yada yada yada. But the going into this Fallout controversy, I don't know if you've seen this, where after the huge success of season one, new players are jumping into the Fallout games, and most people are jumping into Fallout 4. And then there's like this backlash, not, and it's just internet bullshit, but it's like people are trying to say, Don't play Fallout 4, go play New Vegas, go play Fallout 3," which I agree. I like both of those games more. But Fallout 4 is the only Fallout game with like a mildly competent, first person shooting combat system that casual players will have familiarity with. And so it's
Not
like, of course they're going to pick that game.
Yeah, not only that, it also matches the tone of the show. That's what you need to understand as well when you're recommending these things, because I'm sure there's even probably elitists out there that are like, no, you should start at the very first Fallout game. No, no, you really shouldn't.
No.
No, like for one, it's not aged well, and for two, them first Fallout games, they're not considered canon. They were made by a completely different team. Like they went down a completely different route. Like the whole Nuka-Cola thing, for instance. The branding of that was nowhere near as prominent in them first two games. The first two games were very, very dark and very brutal, and it it had like morbid, very, very dark, morbid humor in comparison to like a Fallout 4 where it seems a lot more comedically toned, kind of like the show. Like, yeah, there's probably like dark elements in the show, but it's a lot more like, you know,
Jovial.
yeah,
Silly.
and being able to appeal to everybody. It's why it's gaining so much success and stuff like that. But yeah, like I don't think even like I get it, like New Vegas is considered the best across the board from the majority of Fallout fans. If you ask them, New Vegas is considered the strongest game in the series. But it you can't expect because a lot of these people are new to gaming. It's like the people who picked up the Last of Us show and went and played the Last of Us game and stuff. There's a reason that they're putting this next gen patch out for Fallout 4
Right.
and they're not remastering New Vegas and Free because they could have easily done that and captured on the success of the show because they know that the people that are going to pick that up are going to be like, this plays like shit. And we'll
Exactly.
just switch off immediately. And if anything, that may harm them from coming back to the show because they may lose engagement with it and interest, even if they
Well,
enjoyed the show.
well, for damn sure, what it's going to make them do is never pick up Fallout 5, and they'll just continue watching the shows. And it's like, dude, I that's the thing where you brought up Resident Evil and the tank controls. It's like I I would be doing Resident Evil a disservice to try to recommend you those old school games before the original or before the remakes. Like, if you really enjoy the remakes and you're just like, man, I would really like to see how this all came to be, fucking have a ball, go play the originals.
Well, it's what I ended up doing. I couldn't enjoy it. And I was sitting there the whole time. I did it like 3 times, I believe, like three between the span of years, and I was just like, I would really, really love to have just been born when this was like in its
Yeah.
prime, and there was no comparison that this could be better. Because then you could just grit your teeth and be like, okay, this is just a learning curve. It's a process. I need to like understand it, and I just can't.
Right. And it's great because I was only born a couple years before you, but it even in that period of time, those 3, 4 years, whatever, like I was kind of in that right age range where I was able to play it when it first came out. And the same thing with Fallout 1 and 2. If you were in that age range, you played it when it came out. It was fresh, it was new, it was exciting. Like even Fallout 3 and New Vegas, I would argue, like those haven't aged great.
No,
Unless you're
no.
modding that bitch to fucking
Yep.
the 10th degree. Fallout 4 you can play and like you can at least aim and shoot your gun and it's not good, but it's at least like not god awful. It's bad, but it's not god awful. And I don't know. I find it so crazy that people can't remove their own fandom from like understanding what new casual players are looking for. Like I would never in a million years, despite how much I love RE2, the original, recommend it over the remake. Never, because I love Resident Evil. I want to see Resident Evil continue and have
Yeah,
success.
succeed and stuff by recommending that it wouldn't. And it also the people that are recommending playing Fallout 3 in New Vegas, and you hit the nail on the head. They are seeing it through a film of mods. The majority of these people,
Yeah.
hardly anybody is still playing these games vanilla on consoles and stuff.
Well, and casual players, they're not gonna mod their game.
Exactly. So you can't say go play this and this and this and it's enjoyable because they'll be playing the base version, which was buggy and still is buggy. Like one of the main aspects of Fallout is that system. It hardly functions in New Vegas. It crashes the game.
Yes.
It doesn't land shots a lot of the time. Like it is fundamentally broken. So to say that you should be doing that over Fallout 4, yeah, Fallout 4 may crash, but it's a lot more stable and a lot more palatable to be able to consume on a consumer base that's very new to games.
Totally, man. Yeah, it's either which way, whatever. People can do all this shit all they want. I've even seen this start to kind of bubble up with Resident Evil, where people are trying to get to the gatekeeping and being like, well, they should have never changed it to over the shoulder in Resident Evil 4. Da, 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 da. It's like, dude, y'all are great. Y'all are lunatics. Y'all are going to kill franchises by trying to be like these super hardcore gatekeepers. Like you are going to murder franchises that are having great success. And you actually aren't because you don't have any real power. It's all internet bullshit power. Like it's all, a few thousand people who retweet and like the same garbage and like no developers actually the metrics are right there in front of them. RE2 remake, Fallout 4, like these things are selling like hotcakes. They're not gonna pivot back to fucking turn-based and tank control. Like it ain't happening.
Yeah, it's annoying when you see them harass the developers because like the last thing I remember seeing on like a game that did that and they like triple down on their lunacy was Kingdom Come Deliverance when it came out. And they were adamant that they were like, do not change the save system because it's a part of the game. People just need to learn and just accept it and stuff like that. And it's like, what's stopping them from adding a mode that says you can play this if you want to have your time wasted and you
Yeah.
want to be fully immersed? Or how about you respect the majority of other people's time? And this is coming from somebody who, like, I love Souls likes and stuff. I've always been like, okay, if you're playing online and you're connected to the server and you can be invaded, okay, that makes sense. You can't pause the game. It's essentially you have an open lobby constantly. But if you're opting for an offline, let the people pause the damn game. It makes
Yeah.
no sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
And it stops people like you from enjoying it. And it's just like you're self-sabotaging. Like I get it, you've sold whatever 30, 40, however stupid many millions, but that's a lot left on the table
Yeah.
that you're missing out on.
For sure. Yeah.
It
And
just
it's
doesn't
it
make sense.
certain people like you the pause system in particular, like if you work a job from home, and you're taking calls and answering
Mm.
emails and shit, like you have to be able to pause your games or you just can't play it, period.
Not even just not even just working, having a life.
Having a
A
kid
kid,
or yeah.
a kid screwing around in the corner. What are you gonna do? Like, hold on, I'm beating up Margaret the Felt Omen. Hold on, it's my 45th attempt. I'm feeling this rhythm, kid. Just stop sticking the fork inside the plug socket for 1 second. Like, no, that's not realistic, man. It's just not.
It's so true, dude. But dude, last I saw there was like 100,000 concurrent players in Fallout 4. So
Yeah,
regardless of
mode
the
exploded in pop. Not even just like on Steam and stuff. I think they saw like a 500% rise in players. And I want to also preface the achievement system is currently broken in Fallout 4 and people are still playing it. This is an achievement-based site that pulled this information. And these are people that are diehard achievement fans and they don't even give a shit. They're still
yeah.
playing this game. Like it's that powerful of a TV show right now. It's got that much momentum.
Dude, I'm telling you this right now. That next gen, because I know it'll come to Game Pass day one, the PS or the Series X version of it. If nothing's out at the time, I might jump into Fallout 4. I never
So
finished
it's a
Fallout 4.
it's a free upgrade for everybody. You don't have to pay for it like the Skyrim one, I don't believe. So
Nice.
it's everybody gets access to it. And yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I finished 3 in New Vegas. I never finished Fallout 4. I just didn't really click with it. And that once again, that's coming from the perspective when we're talking about this. I prefer Fallout 3 and New Vegas, but it's like, dude. Yeah, anyway, so yeah, fucking 100,000 concurrent on Steam. And yeah, dude, it is looking like the crazy thing to me is that Elder Scrolls 6, that is probably it took 11 years to go from Fallout 4 to Starfield, which we had Fallout 76 in the middle there. But you got to assume at least another 5, 6 years until we get Elder Scrolls 6, I would assume, right?
There's no way that they release past the year 2030. There's no way. That will be a big failure from them if they keep this up. I get like your games sell like hotcakes and everything, but your goodwill is drying up as a games developer and publisher.
Oh, without a doubt.
So you need to like put something out because right now all they've got is like the TV show's giving them a bit of momentum. Fallout
Yeah.
76 is in like the strongest it's ever been in, but even then that's just like a diehard player base that hasn't let it go. ESO is doing really well. And I think that's what they're holding out on, is that every single update and DLC that they've added to Elder Scrolls Online has morphed it from one step from an MMO just being Skyrim Online. Every single thing that they've been doing, they've made it so that you have companions now, you solo play most of it. A lot of it is story content and stuff and not like raid bosses. They obviously still have that for the people that want it, but I think that's why then they've not been in as of a rush to get an Elder Scrolls game out because it's doing really good as well, numbers wise.
So let's just say 2027 for Elder Scrolls 6, and I feel like that's being pretty generous.
Hmm.
Um, then let's stay generous and let's suspect it only takes them another 4 years to get to Fallout 5. Well, that would be 28, 29, 30. That'd be
32.
yeah, 32. So the show comes out as a huge success in 2024. The next Fallout we get, Fallout 5, 2032. Like that's that seems kind of fucking crazy, but that's probably the reality, right?
So the leaks were that what was it, Oblivion
Mm-hmm.
is remastered and stuff. I
Yeah.
think that they have to do something with the older IPs and something like that. I think like they shouldn't have had such hubris and just let Obsidian do something. Like
Yes.
for Christ's sake, like they could have put something at like they are the masters of working on a like tight schedule. Like even if they put out something bad, it's even just good. Like their weakest stuff.
Yeah. I wonder why they don't like contract a studio to I know Bethesda's very precious with the IP, but like,
It's not
man,
even, but it's Todd. It's Todd Howard because when he
yeah.
was even like I can respect that though. Like it's like you've seen what happens. Like Dark Souls 2, Miyazaki wasn't heading that, and look at what happened. It was so different. It was much worse perceived and stuff, and it just didn't feel right because he was working on Bloodborne. So when they give up, when they release their grip and stuff, something is very, very different because it's somebody else's vision. So I can understand him being because they were also like, what about an Elder Scrolls show? And he's kind of hesitant about it. And he's hesitant about saying about a Fallout game and stuff because he's like, we're full steam ahead on Elder Scrolls. But it's like you're leaving a lot of money on the table and ability to gain some goodwill back, especially with like I said, New Vegas considered the best Fallout game. Obsidian's reached out multiple times. That seems
Bro.
really, really stupid that you're not saying yes.
New Vegas 2 would go so
Yeah,
hard right now because like Obsidian really I thought Outer Worlds, the combat system in that was so much better than anything we'd ever seen from them before. Anything that we'd ever seen from Bethesda or Obsidian, in my opinion. Like that combat system was great for a for an RPG to have that solid first person shooting mechanics. Like that was really strong. Dude, I would love to see Obsidian get a crack at Fallout New Vegas 2. You got to imagine that there's some discussion go because they Microsoft owns both of them.
exactly. That just
You
shows you how much power Todd has.
fuck that. You gotta go.
He's keeping Phil at bay. Feels like knocking on his door on a daily basis. So New Vegas too, yeah.
I
Oh
respect it
Phil,
though.
oh Phil.
I can respect that though. Like you said, someone that really cares about their IP to that degree. Like that is cool to have that. Because Todd's probably 20, 30 mil at least, at this point. He don't have to give a shit and he still does. That's
Yeah,
cool.
exactly. And it like I can't give them flack for it entirely because if it was the other end, like somebody, I hear a news story saying that maybe somebody should make a Divinity game, not Larian. Maybe somebody should do a Pillars game that's not Obsidian. You sit there and think, no, no, that doesn't feel right, doesn't sound right, and it wouldn't be right.
Yeah.
So
Well, Fallout Season 2, it is coming. It is officially confirmed. I don't think they're probably going to be waiting too long. That thing is a juggernaut of a hit. I would imagine we get Season 2. I'll put money on this. We will see Season 2 of Fallout before we see Fallout 5. Fairly
man,
safe bet.
I'm sure that'll be a very big payout if that was a bet. The odds in your favor.
Well,
Yeah,
dude,
it will be within a year, I think. Like The Last of Us was a pretty quick turnover from season one to season two, right?
yeah, I think Season 2 will 2025. I believe it'll air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't think it'll be very long at all. Maybe a year, 2 years.
Well, dude, uh, transition. I was going to include this into the what I have been playing section, but I think it's actually more newsworthy than it is what I'm playing worthy. The Delta emulator dropped on the iPhone App Store where you can go and play classic Nintendo games, NES, SNES, DS, Nintendo 64, and I've been playing the shit out of some Nintendo 64 games on this thing. Not like extensively, but just jumping into old classics that I have in the collection that I love, but I don't really want to hook up the Nintendo 64 to play them. And this has been eh, it's not good. It's not like it's not everything I've played has crashed at some point and had like game breaking bugs at some point. So WWF No Mercy is the one I played the most of. Probably played like an hour and a half, 2 hours of that. But you can't play like the championship mode where you do the story where world heavyweight champion, hardcore, tag team. Like you can't play the actual story mode. It just crashes every single time. But you can go
Mm.
in and play through, some single player matches. And that's really what I've been doing. Like, say, I'll be at work or something. I'm waiting on a client. They're taking a while to get there. I'll just bust out the damn phone. And it like the touchpad controls for, just playing it on the iPhone. Because I have this, hopefully you can see it in the camera. This is what I use. I keep that bitch with me all the time. I love, love, love using this thing.
OG 360 controller is what that looks like. Hell yeah.
Yeah, definitely all 360, like kind of simple control schemes. So it's pretty universal. Um, it takes a little bit of getting used to, obviously adapting that to the Nintendo 64, where like uh this joystick here is like all of your D-pad controls or all of, like the yellow arrow controls on the Nintendo
Oh,
64. Yeah, this does all of those. But it actually, when you start doing it, it feels way better using this. Because, like, so for No Mercy, down runs. So I'm using down with my D-pad. It configures to my hands much more natural than the Nintendo 64. And then so to like hit the finisher, you use this analog stick here on the top left side here, and that just feels much more natural than the analog stick in the middle. So I've kind of I think I'm enjoying No Mercy more than I ever have in my life, just being able to play it like this. But I can't play my damn the main mode that I want to play. That's really what I want to do is just be able to play through that thing. But and it's every game I have played. Every single game I've played. Resident Evil 2 tried to boot it up. Leon and Claire are completely invisible. Like you just can't see them
Yeah.
at all. Um Shadows of the Empire I played through the first two or three levels. And Shadows of the Empire, man, I'll talk about it in a second, but the on the third level, I think the third or fourth level, you just can't see you're in a dogfighting kind of cockpit scenario and you just can't see anything at all. So it's very, very rough around the edges. Very, very rough around the edges. But it's cool.
It's it's why I get very concerned when so many people I get emulators are good. I'm not going to dispute that, but saying that that's the fix for like preservation to a degree, yes. Like you're playing these, but that's not the full game. It's very, very rough. Very, very rough. Because it feels like how Xbox tackled backwards compatibility for the original Xbox games to play them on the 360. A lot of them brought over really bad problems, like the thing that I've mentioned several times with the Lord of the Rings, like JRPG thing that they had, kind of thing, the turn-based game. Any chest in that game flashbanged you constantly. Didn't matter if it was behind scenery or whatever, that was it. That was the whole game, is they would flash white like that. And it's just like I played for it, I beat the game, but I would rather not be blinded every 5 seconds playing through
Yes.
a 10-hour game. And like you said, the main mode that you want to play, you're incapable of playing. So if they really do want to go down this emulator route, it needs an extremely dedicated community to fix these things up. Otherwise, you're gonna get that itch to be like, oh hell yeah, emulator, I want to play this, and then you get into it and it destroys all enthusiasm
Well,
because you can't experience what you want to experience.
and the big problem is like I can't hold anybody accountable because it's free. So it's like, like, and I've always kind of been under the assumption anything cheap, free, whatever. Like I'm even Game Pass, it's like I'll play something that sucks and I'm like, I don't care. I'm paying $15. Like it doesn't matter to me. So this is even lesser stakes where I jump into one of these games and it doesn't work. I don't get upset. It's free. Like I
No,
could give a shit less, but you're totally right. Cause I even
it,
have said in the past that I think emulators are the fix for preservation, but I didn't know it was in this state. I didn't think that it was like most games.
there's so many of them, and they're hit or miss on certain games. It's the thing. It's like a piece of software, whether or not it works with that. Um, and the worrying thing is if people really trumpet these and they don't get any improvement, then the big publishers and everything will be like, well, you have emulators if you want to play these old games and stuff, and then they can just forget about bringing ports, improvements, and just leave these by the wayside because they have no obligation to do so.
Yeah. No, that's actually
That's
a
my
damn good
worry.
point.
That's
Yeah.
my worry is that they'll be like, well, they don't really sell very well, some of these, ports and remasters and stuff, because it's a small minority of people that want to play these really old games. So we're just not going to bother doing it. If you want to do it, play it for an emulator.
Well, and that's the crazy thing with me is like I've never emulated anything until this. I've never emulated a single game in my life until doing this. So this is all very, very new to me. And I'm such a like I don't know what you call it. I'm such a scaredy cat that like I'm only emulating games that I own. So like I'm on if I don't have it in the collection, I'm not emulating. I don't want any sort of weird I know, I understand. Everybody that's listening, it's like, dude, you're never gonna get in trouble for emulating a fucking game from 50 years ago. And at some point I will get to that understanding where I just boot up Rule of Rose
No, man,
because
Nintendo can be some ruthless guys. They went after them tournaments.
that's so funny. But yeah, at some point I'll get to the point where I'm like, all right, I'll play Rule of Rose because I'm never going to spend $1,000 for a fucking PS2 game that I'm pretty sure is not that great. Um,
Mm.
Definitely not worth $1,000. But either which way, I'm taking it's cool. The novelty of it is cool, but you're totally right. This is not the solution whatsoever. But being able to fucking play Farouk and beat up Test and Trish Stratus in a barroom brawl, dropping the motherfuckers on their head through a damn pool table. Like there's just it it's only going to be a use case scenario for me where I just have some time to kill and need something for 30 minutes just to distract me from reality for a minute. You know what I mean? Like chilling, watching a wrestling, watching WWE, watching NBA, the playoffs or whatever.
It's novelty. It's not going to replace like a main
Never.
system and stuff like that. It's just, and I think that's how it should be treated for the most part. Unless they absolutely nail 99% of games to work flawlessly, then it would be like, okay, maybe they need to like look at doing something with it and maybe in tightening the rules and stuff like that. But because it's so hit or miss right now, I think that's why it's so open and why people are like able to do this, that, and the other with whatever games.
Totally. Yeah. And Shadows of the Empire, I always had a lot of love for that game. And going back to it, man, it's crazy how good this game was for its time. And it's crazy how much variety was on offer. Like you have your cockpit dogfighting stuff, you have your on foot shit with your blast. It's actually got a lot of Star Wars Outlaws vibes, obviously from 1998 or 1999 or whatever. So it's very archaic just from a design sensibility, from a visual standpoint. But the it's cool. There's so much variety on offer. And it has a lot of those Jedi Outcast feels where like the platforming feels so terrifying, where you're jumping and you're not sure if you're gonna make it, kind of old school Tomb Raider vibes in that regard. The third person kind of maneuverability of these characters was a bit, spotty, but it kind of added some level of intense moments
Added
to the
stakes to
mundane.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Um, I don't know. I had a lot of fun doing that. And you have the opening section, which is so iconic, where you have the AT-ATs and you're in your ship and you got to you have like your tow rope thing you wrap around their legs and you topple them over. I think that was the first time that was ever introduced in a video game.
Oh yeah.
Just some sick ass shit with Shadows of the Empire. And then just Dash Rendar is a dope ass character that was introduced with this game and then kind of went on to have some level of prominence within the Star Wars universe, I think within the comics and shit. And yeah, I have a real soft spot for that game. It's not like Jedi Academy levels of like that's my favorite Star Wars game ever. Or I don't know, Jedi Survivor is probably my favorite Star Wars game ever, but this is definitely up there for me. Love that damn game.
Awesome. So I've also never used an emulator. What's the catalog like? Like, is it just you're picking names from a list and then you're downloading them?
Yep.
There's no, like you said, it's free, so you're not paying for any of these titles then at all.
Nope. Totally free. Yeah, I see, this is once again my brain kicking in. Should I explain how to use it, or is that illegal to explain how to use this thing? Like I don't even
I have
know.
no idea. This is what I mean. I've never understood like emulator. I don't think like it's on the App Store, is it not? Like it's
Yeah,
been
so
greenlit, so I think what it is it has a catalog. If Disney were to, point its gaze over there and be like, oh, there's a Star Wars game on there, they could probably pursue. I don't think anybody who downloaded it before that is probably if they were to put their foot down
right.
and be like, we want this removed, and then if they kept it up and people kept downloading it, maybe then they could pursue legal action. But a lot of these, like their licenses are expired and stuff like
Yeah.
that, and
I'll just say this. You download the Delta app and then pretty much any game like I said, NES, SNES, DS, Nintendo 64, um might be one other system that it's only
oh,
Nintendo
this
for
is
right
all
now.
Nintendo. Oh
But
man, I
they
was
got
hoping for like PS1 and
that
PS2.
PS1's coming soon. PS1 is coming very soon, supposedly. PS1 and PSP are supposedly the next up.
Do you know if is this just all like PAL or like US releases, or is this across the board?
Nope. I played about 20 minutes today before this podcast. I played uh what is it? Virtual Pro Wrestling, I think, which was only a Japanese release.
Oh, they need to add these that's my gateway to being able to play these original Persona games then.
Yeah. Well,
I'm not paying like £400 for these things. Are you out of your mind?
did you see though? Persona 1. Did we talk about that last week
Yeah,
that
we
they're
we
getting
talked about
remade?
Persona 1 and 2, yeah, being
Possibly.
remake. But that's gonna be even if it's the case, there'll be uh what's the one like design choices being altered, and it's going to be
Yeah.
years until they come out. Well, I say that Atlas is on a freaking hot streak right now.
No shit.
Like they're just like announcing things and like here, have it in 6 months' time, guys. So maybe that might be a duo of releases that comes out next year.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, it's cool. I think it's gonna get a lot cooler whenever, because like PS2 will be up soon, PSP, PS1, like whenever they get to OG Xbox, that's gonna be, I'll be diving in a lot. I'm very, very interested in this because I do think that in terms of just it's not the fix for preservation. I was totally wrong on that. But it is the fix for accessibility if you aren't necessarily interested in a full version of that game. Like it's a good itch, it's a good itch to get scratched.
Because the majority of people that are retro collect, they don't play through the whole thing anyway.
Right.
It's just I want to recapture this moment from my childhood. I'll dip in. And if anything, what I would probably value from it the most is if I was to bite the bullet and pick up like an original system of any of these. This is like a demo way of
Yes.
like, okay, this is a very steep game, but I'm at least gonna enjoy it. Can you like imagine some of these retro collectors
Dude,
forking out like $600 and you get the game and it's absolute arse? Like
that is a perfect point that you just
that
brought up.
hurts to
I
think
didn't even
about.
I didn't even think about using it as like a demo thing. That is a great point. Where if you really enjoy something and you're going to get a kind of inferior version of it through this, Delta or through any of these, ROMs and then different apps that are going to pop up later on and whatever's going to have, you're going to run into some issue likely with pretty much everything. Um, I will say Star Wars Episode 1 Racer. I played some of that and I was blown away by how well that played. And I played a little bit of Mario Kart. Was blown away by how well both of those games play because these are games that are incredibly technically dependent on having decent, frame rates and perform like I was shocked, but the phone
Racing
is more
games,
powerful.
racing games have always been very, very, very well designed though. From the
Yeah.
get, like very strong foundations. Like they've always been when you see like in the early like PS1, like it was Gran Turismo that was showing like this is the power of the system and stuff. They've always been very, very well built from the ground up. So that surprises me a little bit less.
Yeah. Yeah, I gotta say, man, I've really been enjoying this. I'm definitely gonna keep on dabbling with it. I've just kind of been downloading random shit. And I don't play most of these things for long at all. I don't really have any interest in playing most of these things for long at all. I played the most of No Mercy and Shadows of the Empire, but I'm gonna definitely continue to dabble, especially once PS2 and then OG Xbox. When that gets added, PS1 as well, I'll really be dabbling much more. Um
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
man. But next up, let's actually talk about. I think this is probably, for me personally, the thing that I'm the most interested in this week in the video game news space is that Mafia is
Yeah, I thought
looking
that would
like
be it.
that's my shit, man. Um, so this comes from Caracasis,
Yeah.
uh, who is a notable leaker in the Take-Two sphere. He or they tweeted out, I can tell you that a few days ago, Take-Two began preparations for an announcement regarding the Mafia series. It's hard to determine the time frame, but with Judas, I've seen them gearing up for a new trailer about 3 to 4 weeks before it dropped. So dot 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 soon. And then he said, FYI, I specifically wrote an announcement regarding the Mafia series because I don't
Yeah.
know if it's an announcement of Mafia 4, the next gen update for the trilogy, or something else. When I find out, I will let you know more. Um, and yeah, he's had a good track record of
That's that's what gives me a bit of pause, is that it could just be a next gen update. Which is worrying because let's be honest, Mafia 3 kind of shaky, really didn't have a good launch. Like it was enjoyable. I enjoyed myself. my time with it and ended up finishing it, but it suffered from performance issues. It suffered from it felt like an identity crisis almost as to what it was trying to achieve because you had Mafia 1 Definitive Edition, which kind of kept true to the series, and it's a very linear thing. Like you have the world like you do in Mafia 2. These two games are technically, if you want to say open world, they're open world, but their mission structure doesn't, utilize that.
Yeah.
It's they take you to a location and it's very, very on the rails because they need it to be like that so that they can tell you a compelling story with characters. And that is why like you would get to Mafia 3 and these characters kind of felt detached from the plot until you sat them down at the table and then were like, here's
Yeah.
this piece of thing. And it's just like you've not really interacted with like you get like a 2 minute cutscene like with these people and then you're not out there with them doing anything like you were with Joe in Mafia 2 and the two characters I'm drawing a blank on in the original Mafia game. You're
Well,
not with them on that journey. You're conquering it on your own and then divvying it up between these background characters, the
yeah.
bonuses.
Well, the thing, so I love the Mafia games. I've played through, finished one, two, and three. Um, I, the one thing I will say that worries me about this, uh, is that the trilogy was really rough when it came out. Specifically, Mafia 2 was supposedly awful. The definitive edition of Mafia 1 was excellent, but
Cracking game.
so good. But the supposedly Mafia 2 in that trilogy for PS4 was rough.
Mm.
And so it kind of makes me worry that this is what it'll be. It'll be an announcement of the updated next gen for the trilogy so that they can clean up those issues. Um, but I do know that Hangar
Mm.
13, they were working on that Transformers game. Or not, it was a Transformers styled live service game. I don't think it was the actual IP, but they were
Mm.
working on this live service kind of Transformers like game. And that got canceled, I think in 2021 or 2020.
Yeah.
And then they pivoted to this new Mafia game that they're working on, which is supposedly like early 1900s, late 1800s, early 1900s. And so if that's been in development since 2020, 2021, let's just say, I don't know if that's enough time for them to be ready for a reveal.
It all depends on the quality of staff they have there. Because we've seen games like open world games and stuff like that have either really, really long turnovers in development or they can even have really short turnovers in development. It depends on what scale they're aiming to deliver on. Are they going for a Mafia 3 thing where it's open world and you're actually utilizing that? Because if they are, that's not enough time at all. Because when you think about it, when you were even playing through Mafia 2, you had these streets and stuff, but they weren't really fleshed out. You would like go up to things and like the textures were rough and stuff because you're not meant to be getting out of your car and walking down these streets.
It's a
You
backdrop.
would, yeah, you would get to the places where the plot takes place, and that's where they would be fleshed out. And I think, what did you say, 2020, 2021?
I believe so. I could be wrong on that.
Like a 3, 4, maybe 5 year dev cycle for something that looks a little bit more pretty, but has the design of a Mafia 2 and a Mafia 1. I think that's plenty of time.
Well, I mean, if you look at Mafia 3 from a visual standpoint, it's still one of the best looking games ever made. Like, it is unbelievable. The visuals are top tier, some of the best character models ever. So it's like, if they're building off of that same technology, I would be fine with that. Like, obviously just having it be on the PS5 Series X is just naturally going to look better with those being the dev kits that they have. But like, I don't think they need to totally overhaul the engine that
Stability they do. I
yeah.
don't know if you remember they had a very. Do you remember when the definitive edition of GTA games come out with the rain problems?
Yeah.
It had that in Mafia 3 when it first came out, and it was laughable. Like how you can go from having a stellar cutscene to when you're out and about, it looked like shit. And that was crazy, and it would have massive dips in quality. So they need to iron that stuff out. So
Yeah.
yeah, if they can do that, even just scaling it back a bit. Not everything needs to look photorealistic, man. Like I get it, them it did add to the cutscenes and stuff, but I would rather have a smaller development cycle for these devs. Have it look pretty good. Because you look at stuff like Banishers, that doesn't look bad, really. Like
Yeah.
if if I was approached and said like every AAA game had to look like that on that level to keep things in a 4 year dev cycle, I would just accept that. I'd be happy with that. That's a
There would
fine bar to have hit.
You would have to do something in there though. Like it couldn't be just okay, hey, it's the same exact thing as Mafia 3, but it looks like Banishers. Like, okay, now it's the same exact thing as or it looks like Banishers, but it's a totally new style of game. Or we have, choices. We have like something big, something new, like more destructible environments because we're not going with this photorealistic look. Like there would have to be some sort of add-on for me personally, because I think that Mafia is one of the rare instances where the visual fidelity like really aids the experience to me because it's like so cinematic, so fucking story driven that like I love seeing these character models that are like top shelf because I get more invested into their stories, you know?
Yeah, it's just my worry of chasing down style over substance because maybe you disagree with me here, and that obviously that's completely fine. Opinions are opinion. The story in Mafia 3 was arse.
You think so?
In comparison to the previous two games, it didn't gel with me at all.
I'd take
Like,
Mafia 1 over 3, but I'd take Mafia 3 over 2, I think,
mm,
story-wise.
I don't know, man. Like, I enjoyed Vito and his whole journey and stuff. Maybe it's a setting thing for me, not being really exposed because it's Louisiana, isn't it? And stuff like that. Not really had much connection with that area at all, being in the UK and not really. I can't name any like IP, be it like movie or whatever that's set there, other than like maybe like Red Dead Redemption and its kind of like
New
swampy area kind of stuff.
Yeah, New Bordeaux
It
or whatever it
really,
was.
it doesn't really do anything for me.
Yeah.
And the not as strong as like a turn off, but man, they were really like excited to touch upon the race stuff like a lot. And
Oh,
they
I
felt like
loved that shit.
they tripled down on it. And I don't know, it felt like it got in the way a little bit. It's not like I was offended and stuff. It just felt like, all right, this is a bit in your face, but okay. So
But I mean, you're talking about the 60s. You're talking
yeah,
about yeah, I don't I loved that aspect of it. I thought that that was probably the best I'd ever seen it depicted in games. I but I'm not a black person, so I have no idea
I mean,
how
yeah, that neither am I.
yeah.
But
But I mean,
it
like
just felt very in your face and very like they were almost excited to do it, and it was just like okay, yeah, and it just wasn't as interesting to me
yeah, I love the
of the
story in
three.
Mafia. I love the story in Mafia 3, but I do think my biggest complaint with Mafia 3 is a lot of those like it felt kind of like you said earlier, felt detached. The story was so good to me, and then a lot of the gameplay just felt like I'm going out and clearing these enemy encampments
Mm.
and like nothing. I don't know. I didn't really feel much significance to a lot of what was going on in terms of the gameplay. There were a few moments that were so badass in the like linear design of the main
Yeah,
story beats.
exactly. Like the boat section, that was
Yes, that was
cool.
exactly what I was thinking of.
The hotel thing at the end was pretty good. With like a last hurrah. Other than that, like I don't think I can name. I can name more of the DLC missions than I can the base because they were just better.
Yeah.
Like they did a one tied with the CIA guy and stuff like that, and that was cool. That was interesting. But a lot of the story, that's why I said for me, like it's just weak because I can remember a lot of what happened in Mafia 1 and Mafia 2's story and stuff like that, and they felt much more impactful because they chose that much more linear focus.
Yeah,
There
that
was
no
no
doubt.
I'm clearing out a camp like Vito going over and like everything was very deliberate. You were doing things that progressed the storyline. So when he was going into gang territories, it was for tiny little wins that he could get for his family instead of just a checklist.
Well, and like, dude, for me, I would the setting, the decade or whatever when it's going to take place, this prequel, that kind of worries me as well, where like I would really like to go forward. I would even I know we feel differently about this, but I would be totally down because supposedly like Lincoln Clay, goes off and potentially builds up this empire. Like I would love to go on that journey, like building up this empire, because Lincoln Clay I think is my favorite of the main protagonists from the Mafia series. So I'd be totally down to go on another journey with him, especially if it's like empire building. I love that in crime games. Like, Tony Montana Scarface vibes. I think that's so sick in crime games, but it's not often utilized. Like even Vice City doesn't do a incredible job of really like making you feel that you're building something huge. You know what I mean? Like you do get a lot of money and cribs, this, that, and the other, but it doesn't feel like you're building something epic. So I'd be totally down to do that. But I just think going late 1800s, early 1900s, leading into like that prohibition era, I just think that that's kind of a boring setting that we've already, because Mafia 1, what was that? That was 1930s.
Yeah, 30s. Yep. Because
So
in the
it's
40s was Vito, because that ties into the story. They're both very connected.
yeah, so it's like, what are we doing? Are we just we're gonna kind of be right around that same, we're gonna lead into Mafia 1, I guess, and tie it together. But like I've always looked at Mafia as something that could be like Grand Theft Auto, where it's just Mafia stories, just the name Mafia, and then a new story, a new decade, a new, like it doesn't have to tie everything together.
If I'm being 100% honest, what I would have wanted them to do, just move away from America, give something new. Like, look at one of the most popular TV shows in the past, like, 10 years. It was Peaky Blinders.
Right.
That was incredible. Like, touching upon other nations, like, crimes and syndicates and stuff like that.
Totally.
And, Sleeping Dogs, hardly any, like, we never see any Triad games, ever.
Yeah.
Since Sleeping Dogs, what I cannot name a single one to memory. Maybe there
None.
have been some, but I don't in the mainstream space, none. The
Not like
closest you
this.
get, the closest you get is like a cyberpunk where they kind of add in like Asian gangs and cultures and stuff like that. But yeah, you don't have one entirely set in Hong Kong and stuff like this. Like
Yeah.
other than Yakuza, obviously, but they're a whole different breed of game.
Well, yeah, and I mean Yakuza's Japan, so
Mm.
Sleeping Dogs being Chinese centric, like that's such a cool, the triad, like that's such a cool route. You could go to Italy, you could go to the UK. Like there's been some pretty big fucking mob families that were run in the UK. I mean, there are every part of this world.
As
Uh,
criminals.
yeah.
They've
And I'm
had some form of empire. Like even like an Eastern European game, we never see that ever. Like like a Ukrainian set game, maybe even Russia, stuff like that. That would be brutal
yeah.
because it would be the how you would portray the police in like Russia would not be in any way the same way as they work in any other space in the world.
Yeah.
So telling a compelling story like that, but I don't know if they would be able to do that.
Yeah. It's I, I'm kind of open, like in terms of actual location, I'm kind of open to wherever. I'd be cool with really anything. I still don't love the timepiece. Like I just don't know if there's enough interest, and maybe I could be very wrong. I just don't know if there's enough interest in early 1900s at this point.
Are you sure? Look at what Red Dead 2 did. That went back.
Western though.
Mm. But that still went back. You'd think that it's a lot harder to make a more compelling game with less technology and stuff like that and make it enjoyable, considering the game before that is GTA 5 pushing more and more sci-fi with each update. Yet it still absolutely reined in tons of people. I think I think it could work, personally.
I just wonder if it'll be different enough, like, a 10, 20 year gap between Mafia 1 and this. I just wonder if it'll have something that feels, because those games sell well. Like, I think Mafia 3 sold 7 million copies, but I think Take Two wants them to sell 20 million copies. So it's like, what does that? What can get you there? And I don't know if early
I'm not sure if
1900s.
any Mafia game could ship that many copies, though, if I'm being 100% honest. Like looking at it from like a realistic viewpoint, I don't think that there would be no way they could ever reach 20 million
Yeah.
because their competitor is GTA. GTA does everything better than in the wider audience and mindset of stuff.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. I mean, I love Mafia. I'm down for wherever they go. I'll play the early 1900s, late 1800s, 70. I really don't give a shit where they go. I'm so down for the series to return, and I hope, and I guess I should let's see this Caricus, what is it? Caricasus? What the hell's the name of the league? We'll call it Caricasus. Uh, this year alone, they revealed Marvel 1943, Rise of Hydra, Marvel Rivals, Metro Awakening, and Indiana Jones: The Great Circle prior to their official announcement. So this individual seems to be very reliable in the leaking space. So, and we knew Mafia was, we knew there's a new game in the works. So I'm hoping to God it's the new game and it's not the
Next gen
remaster of the
patch.
remaster.
Yeah, hopefully not.
But next, man, I know that this is one that we don't actually we can skip this. Uh, Fuck it. Well, I'll talk about it real quick. The Nintendo Indie World Showcase took place, and Lude and I talked about it a little bit before the show. He's like, "Man, there's really not a whole lot that clicked with me at this showcase," and I actually kind of like feel differently. We talked last week about the Triple I initiative, and there wasn't a whole lot that really clicked with me there, but there was a few games that he really thought stood out. So we're kind of in different boats on this one, and then the last
Yeah,
one.
yeah, it's obviously just a differing of genres and enjoyment. With that, Triple I was more roguelikes and stuff like that, which is more my wheelhouse. Whereas Nintendo Indie World, it felt from the majority of releases, it's 3D platformers and 2D platformers and puzzle games, and it's not, yeah, something that I really look forward to.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
it's
that's not to knock any of the games, obviously. Like they looked visually stunning, a lot of them. It's just something that I know I won't end up picking up myself.
yeah, it kind of both showcases had their lane, like RTS and roguelikes for the triple I. This was a lot of platformers and shit. Like, not really. I'm in the same boat. Like, there's not a ton on here that I'm just like, I can't wait to get my hands on it. But I will shout out a few games here, throw them on your radar, and I'll roll some trailers here. We have Little Kitty Big City. This is the Diet Stray. We got Stray, but on the Switch. Mom, we don't need we got Stray on the Switch. It's coming May
Uh,
9th. I enjoyed Stray enough to check this out. And this looks like I know I'm knocking it. I really don't mean to knock it. I'm just joking. I think this
yeah,
looks more fun than Stray. Looks just much less serious. It's not visually striking whatsoever, but it's a cat smacking people in the head, doing some dumpster diving, just like silly looking fun. Coming to everything but PlayStation, which is weird. It's also coming to Game Pass.
yeah, it's a very weird thing. Yeah, they have ties with like Nintendo as well. Nintendo swings back and forth who they want to partner with
I
and
would
who they
assume,
want to like extend an extra hand out and be like, yeah, that can go on that system as well, I
yeah.
guess.
I would assume it's some Game Pass exclusivity thing where Microsoft paid for it to not come to PlayStation for a little bit, and that's fine. PlayStation did the same thing with Stray, so they kind of got their version of Stray coming to Game
Yeah.
Pass May
Whoop.
9th. I'll definitely be playing it. I'm always down for some silly shit like that. Um, this is one for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fans out there. Splintered Fate, and this is kind of in your wheelhouse, a roguelike. This is already on the phone, which I'm sure it probably runs much better on later iPhones than it will on the Switch. But supposedly it's a pretty good like roguelike game on the phone. And I went and saw some of the reviews. People are saying it's like a solid 7 out of 10. And if it wasn't a roguelike, I'd definitely be down. I enjoyed Shredder's Revenge for what it was. Uh, but I definitely welcome a good 3D Turtles game into my rotation right now. I haven't played a good
Again,
3D Turtles game ever.
a 180, it would be the complete opposite thing for me. If it wasn't a Turtles game, I'd probably be interested in it. I've never been interested in Turtles really,
Wow.
personally.
I think that's one of those like we talked about earlier with the tank controls with Resident Evil. Like there's that little gap where my like 3 years being 3, 4 years older than you, like the Turtles were just a little bit more relevant in that like early 90s period. Um,
Yeah, no, absolutely.
but yeah, there was some cool shit in this. Like you saw one of the turtles, they were doing some weightlifting. I'm sure there's not like any mini game where you're actually doing anything fun with lifting weights or anything interesting like that. But it is launching this
No cleaning
July.
walls like Harold Halibut. None of that. None of that beautiful gameplay that we want.
I, I see that's the thing is so funny, even though it's so silly. Like I'm down for shit like that just to give you something different to do every now and then. Especially in a roguelike game where it's like constantly repetition, the same exact thing over and over, just to let me lift some weights with my damn turtle and increase my stats that way. But yeah, timed exclusive to the Switch. It is launching this July. Like I said, it's already available on the phone. And if you want to probably play the better version, if you have a later iPhone or later Android, much more powerful than the Switch. Um, uh, I'm
Uh,
joking. I'm fucking joking.
I'm not.
Um, I mean the Switch obviously
Love
is
digging
des
out Nintendo. Oh yeah.
the Switch is designed to play games, so I understand why. I get it. I get it. But you want to play more powerful version, play it on your iPhone. Um, do you want to? I have a couple more. Do you want to go ahead and shout out the one that
Yeah,
caught your eye?
I only had one, and it's something that it's been reported on several times now because it even came from one of the old like big Souls like YouTubers. There's a you got a series called Steam Dumpster Diving is what it's called, and it's where he'll go in and play like student projects of Souls likes and try them out. And he's done like all like he did the last year of Nostalgaia and helped that get like momentum. And he ended up doing this game, which is another Crab's Treasure, is what it's called. Really goofy, very much in the same vein almost as the last year of Nostalgaia, just a comedic, silly Souls-like and stuff. And they lent very much into that. And they even went to the point of being like, okay, Souls like a difficult games and stuff. So if you want like the easiest mode, you can just give your crab like a 9mm handgun and it will just one shot each enemy. If you guys just want to get through the story and stuff like that, like dumb stuff like that.
That is
So
epic.
it looks really stupid, really goofy. Also really interesting because I think your equipment is tied to like your shell. So your attacks are
Yes.
based upon your shell. So like you'd like get rid of your crab shell and you put on like a Pepsi can on the back, for instance, and
Yes.
that will change. And that looks really cool. It's always good when Souls like find a way to differentiate themselves and not make it intrusive, like that Lords of the Fallen reboot thing. Like keep it simple, but also give something that no other game does. Just stop overhauling everything. Just do one thing different and you'll
Totally.
find that your game is a lot more well received because the same thing happened with Mortal Shell and stuff like that. Why it got
Yeah.
so much love.
And that's coming out this week to Game Pass day one. So do not have long to wait for another crab's treasure. That shit's so sick. The idea of like using the the waste, using all of the fucking hazardous, the toxic shit that's been left down at the sea to your advantage. Like that's such an interesting idea. I think I am gonna jump into this. And it's coming out the day before Stellar Blade and Sandland, so I don't. I'll probably just kind of dabble with it for a few hours that night.
You're gonna you're gonna try Sunland day
Sandland,
one.
yeah, I'm getting
Oh
that
yeah.
before Stellar Blade. I think that shit looks unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. Um, yeah, that's April 26th. Just that idea, the vehicular combat and all that
Mm,
shit. That looks so
I'm
cool to me.
interested in it. Well,
Yeah, I'll let you know if it's solid, man. That'll be what are we at today? Today is the 20th. The next time we record will be the 27th, so it'll be the day after Sandland comes out. So I'll have something to say about it by the next time we record. But Lorelei and the Laser Eye is the next game I want to shout out here from Sayonara Wild Hearts developer, being published by Annapurna. They're calling it a non-linear puzzle game, and it's got like this monochromatic art style with like little hints of splashes of color thrown in there. It doesn't look like the world's most enjoyable, most fun game, but it at least looks different. It at least looks interesting. It's getting a May release date, so yeah, Lorelei and the Laser Eye, visually very, very compelling. From a gameplay standpoint, I doubt it's going to move the needle, but it at least is unique looking. Um, I'll rapid fire run through these next two here. Europa, definitely the best looking game at the show, in my opinion. Very Zelda-y. Seems to be more puzzle solving kind of adventure game. Like it doesn't seem like there's really any action, any combat going on. And there's a demo available right now on the Switch. So if you want to go and check it out, see if it's up your alley, there is a demo ready for you to play. And it should be out on all platforms later this year. I think this was actually supposed to come out this month, if I'm not mistaken, but guess it got delayed. But I'd actually never heard of this game until watching this showcase. So I think it looks damn good. It looks very Zelda-y. That's Zelda-y without the combat would be my,
there's still a lot of praise. Yeah.
yeah, visually definitely something to behold. And last of all, shout out Steam World Heist 2, 2D action game. The coolest part of this trailer for me was the boat driving shit. When you're in the 3D realm driving the damn boat around, I thought that looked excellent. I know people love Steam World Dig and Steam World Heist,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah. It's an IP that just they're building off it. It's got so much momentum for like how small it seems like it is. Like it's had what, 3 or 4 games now
yeah, right.
with that. Like that's crazy.
Yeah, indeed, man. And should be great. Coming everywhere August 8th. Um, I'll shout out one more Valley Peaks. I've been grooving with these short hike Chia style indie small scale open world games. And in Valley Peaks, it's like this open world platformer where uh you're using your tongue to do the platforming, like you're attaching your damn tongue to different environments and swinging around. And I don't know, it's a weird looking game. There's a lot of mini games and shit that seem fun to me, like once again boating. If it's a good 4 hour short hike style indie game, indie open world game, I'm down. Launch in 2024, Switch and PC. I'm sure if it's successful, it will come to Xbox and PlayStation at a later date. All right, so that is the Nintendo Indie World Showcase wrapped up real quick, like there. And now we can move on. What'd you think about this, Loon? Larian is working on two original IP. We talked about this a few weeks ago. Larian moving away from Baldur's Gate, obviously, but working on two original IP. I find the wording there interesting. Not two new IP, but two original IP. So I'm wondering if that means original creation stuff that Larian has already
Uh,
created and expanding upon that.
yeah. No, it has to be that.
Yeah.
This is before they picked up Baldur's Gate 3. They had a lot of stuff like floating what they need to do with the Divinity series because the original Sin stuff predated a lot of the uh the established Divinity timeline stuff. It was like a massive setup and filling in lore gaps and stuff. So it has to be either original sin free or they're ditching original sin because plot points, the original sin has already been committed and they move on further down that timeline, which is what I think is probably going to be because they said they've got one big, obviously big game and one smaller game, is how they also explained it. And I think that that would obviously have to be the bigger game. And the smaller game, I have no idea. I want it to be the Fallen Heroes thing, but they said that they canned it. So I'm not sure if they would backtrack on that and pick that up, but I have no idea what that second game could be.
I'm really hoping it's at least one new IP. If they wanted, I understand you got your shit already built up there, but if we get one new IP, I'd be so so happy. Um, the direct quote here from what is it, Sven? How do you say that last
Sven
name?
Vink,
Sven
Sven
Vink.
Vink. Yep.
Um, as an independent studio since 1996, we value the freedom to follow our creativity wherever it leads. In this case, after 6 years in the Forgotten Realms and much discussion and rumination, we've decided to seize this opportunity to develop our own IPs. Huh. We're currently working on two new projects, and we couldn't be more excited about what the future has in store. So, yeah, our own IPs.
That's why I
That
don't think it will be new intellectual properties. I think it's probably
exactly.
just going to be picking up pieces as to what they left behind. And in their defense, they're on such a hot streak right now. They have a lot of extended merchandise for Divinity. There's no better time than right now to capitalize on that and bring in even more eyes onto that series because they've got a board game in the works. They've printed graphic novel for it. So bring in, even if you win over 40% of what you sold from Baldur's Gate, that's a huge, huge win for them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, that would shatter any Divinity sales from previous games.
But
Um,
he also said that he thinks it will be like the biggest thing ever. So like you're talking Baldur's Gate 3 absolutely knocked everything out of the park. And he's like almost giddy like a child when he was doing that interview at the end with like his phrasing of saying like this is the biggest thing ever. Like we see it only in its early concept phases, and he's like, I really wish I could like show this to you. Like I'm that excited and we're that passionate and stuff like that. Like he's just one of them people like the Remedy team. Like they love what they do, and when it comes out, like it will be very, very big.
yeah. Yeah, he said that he thinks it's going to be their best work yet in terms of what they're looking to do narratively, visually,
Yeah.
gameplay wise, etc. It's like that's a high high bar, but hey, you gotta fucking believe them at this point. I mean, Baldur's Gate 3 was Baldur's Gate 3 is probably gonna sell by the time it's all said and done, probably 25 30 million copies. Like it's unprecedented for not even just CRPGs, but for turn-based RPGs. Like those numbers haven't been even close since like Final Fantasy X, you know?
Exactly, and that's a completely different breed of a turn-based. That's a JRPG, and this is, this is the new breed of Western CRPGs, and the way that they look like they have to be made now to keep them
Absolutely.
accessible.
Yeah, man. As much as I would love to see Larian go on to make a cool ass sci-fi, original IP, a mob RPG or whatever the case. I do think you're probably right. Probably going to be going back to Divinity.
Yeah, in their defense, though, their timeline further down the line for Divinity has a lot of sci-fi elements. So maybe they tap into that and be like, we want to do something a little bit different and stuff. Because they've had
Um,
like really different um, technology in the Divinity series. Like Original
Nice.
Sin was more traditional fantasy stuff, but they have had like airships and stuff like that, and guns and stuff.
Yeah. I'm so so tired of fantasy RPGs, man. So beyond tired of them. So I'd welcome in a Nice little sci-fi twist, which, I'm not a Divinity guy one way or the other, but if it's fucking, if I'm not a Baldur's Gate guy either, and they got me in on that just based off the critical acclaim and just all the fanfare. But moving on over here, talk a little bit about old PlayStation. Their games are getting trophies on PC. And then they sync to your account. This was confirmed directly by PlayStation on the blog post. So it's the times are changing, my friend. The times
Hmm.
are changing as we see Xbox is always kind of a little bit ahead of the curve, maybe a little too early to the punch oftentimes, but seems PlayStation is following in their footsteps with this PC initiative. I think I mean, we're on the precipice of day and date very, very soon. I would imagine by the end of this generation, we're getting day and date for a lot of games.
Yeah, no, the PlayStation wanted to deny that a lot in the past few years of saying that that is just not a sustainable model. Of course, it's a sustainable model. Like you're selling a copy of a game that wouldn't be sold. Like I get that you want them preferably all in your ecosystem, but that's just not how it is. It doesn't matter how good it is, a lot of people aren't going to pick it up because they've already forked out, especially on PC. You're talking some people have spent thousands on their rigs.
Yeah.
What in their mind, they're thinking, why on earth am I going to go fork out 500 for a plastic box to play one thing that interests me?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Sony first party, they are kind of at a cadence right now about one game a year of like one significant game a year, one AAA big, banger. So it's just not enough, and listen, the console market, I think I guess I shouldn't say always, historically has been the dominant market. You know what I mean? But it's changing now. People like PC, I would assume that console market is still like where developers make their cash, but it's growing, man. You look at Helldivers 2, like that did better on PC than it did on PlayStation. And I understand that those style of games tend to do better on PC, like multiplayer centric shooters and shit, but I don't know, man. Like I do think times are changing, and uh, Xbox, they're always too early to
Yep,
everything that
no,
they
they
do.
absolutely no one can deny that because everything that they've predicted will happen. Maybe people could take the stance of they've influenced it to happen because they did it. I think it was just inevitable,
Well, I
to
mean,
be 100% honest. Like
you
you can't ignore PC because Ubisoft did that many years ago. They shunned them big time, calling them all pirates and why we won't put Ubisoft games on PC. Quickly backtrack that statement in like 8 months. They're like, yeah, we really can't be saying them kinds of things. You can't ignore what PC is.
yeah.
It's its own closed off ecosystem, but you can't ignore them. That's a massive, massive install base.
Well,
So yeah,
I mean,
PlayStation doing this.
when you look at like the Ethernet cable, when you look at the Xbox Live, when you look at the achievement system, like Xbox is always kind of on the cutting edge. Sure, you can throw in shit like the Kinect, which was a total bomb, and like that, but everyone's gonna have total bombs. But they are often early to the punch, but it ends up being very forward thinking and pays off pretty soon thereafter. And I I think you're now seeing leadership change at PlayStation. Profit margins are much smaller. Like it's inevitable. Like you said, it is inevitable. This that we will start seeing day and date games. I listen, The Last of Us 3, or well, no, that'll probably be day and date the day it comes out because that'll probably be 2030 or so. But the Ghost of Tsushima 2, no, of course not. That'll be one of these things where it's PS5 when it comes out a year, but we're already seeing Horizon came out a year after Forbidden West launched in 2022, PC 2023. So they're getting so the window is shrinking drastically. Day and date's inevitable. It's inevitable.
Yeah, I'd say probably about 70%. I could still see maybe Sony sticking to that, make sure everything comes out a year later, because it also does make sense from a business perspective,
For sure.
because that also manipulates your profits. you get a big sale on PlayStation this year. If you have a little bit of a a wane in releases that following year, having a PC release keeps that profit margin up as well.
Totally. Like if your Ratchet and Clanks and your the games of that ilk, I think are PC day and date when they start coming back around. The Ratchet and Clank just doesn't sell enough. Like but games even maybe Ghost of Tsushima 3 potentially. The Days Gone, like those style of games, those games that sell in between like 5 to 12 million. I think they're going to PC day and date. God of War, you don't have to put that PC day and date. You'll sell 30 million when it comes out, and then it'll sell another 5, 10 when you put it out on PC. Spider-Man, same thing. So those big mainstays, like you said, that 70%, I think that's a good number. 70% day and date. 30% of the heavy hitters, the must-haves, those will probably be a year, 2 years after, something like that. But I do think that um, next generation PS6, I wouldn't be surprised at all to see those windows shrink down drastically. But
Absolutely.
yeah, man, I mean, Nintendo, I think, is really going to be the only company that doesn't pivot. I genuinely, I do not think Nintendo games are going to come to PC until like they are on their deathbed, until Nintendo is like a month away from fucking bankrupting the company, which
Yeah, I'm
I
trying
don't
to
know if
think.
they'll
I
ever
don't
be
think,
there.
yeah, they don't. I don't think I've ever. There's been a port of a Nintendo game to PC.
I don't think so. Not even shit like
Man, that's crazy.
juggernauts. Absolute juggernauts, dude. They don't need any of that shit. They play their own game. Like I respect the hell out of Nintendo for just being pot committed to what they believe in. Like fuck it. Who cares about the reality of it? Where and
It's
it is
because they'd have to rethink their entire strategy as a company if they did that. Just even one game, then that you open the gate and people have the expectation of, okay, you've done this one game, that means every other game is open season. Whereas they've kept everything under lock and key. You know that you want to play a Nintendo game, you buy a Nintendo. As
100%.
simple as that.
Yeah, I respect it. I really do. That's the market I prefer. I prefer shit to be console exclusive. I don't really care about PC actually. Like PC is like so irrelevant to me. Like it doesn't even enter my like I'm not being I mean genuinely like I'll never ever buy a PC, own a PC. Like I could not give a fuck less. So to me it's like that's it is what it is. But I like console exclusives. Like I want to go to Nintendo for what Nintendo has. I want to go to PlayStation for what PlayStation has. I want to go to Xbox for what they have. And I don't know, I think it breeds competition. But regardless, that's a whole different topic for a whole different day. We've talked about that plenty in the past already. Um, Next up on the docket here today, Skybound. Got to be really clear on this. Skybound, not Skydance. I've seen a lot of people thinking that we're going to be getting this crazy. So anyway, Skybound is creating an Invincible game, the superhero cartoon animated television show that's out on Amazon. And actually, when this story broke, I went and watched the first episode just because I wanted to see. Like, just wanted to see what it's about. I'm not going to continue. It's good. It's really interesting, actually. I just don't TV shows don't I can't really watch them. And if I want to, continue playing games and shit, there's just not enough time in the day. But it's cool as shit. And Skybound. So a smaller publisher is going to be making an Invincible game. Skydance, that's the Marvel 1943, the Amy Hennig, like big blockbuster, $100+ million productions, triple A to the highest of fucking A's. That's a different team. Skybound, they published WrestleQuest. They published the final season of The Walking Dead. The, much smaller publisher. But they are saying this is a AAA Invincible game with some like ex Ubisoft and ex EA talent on board. So,
That's because they
well,
got a crowdfunding going that's
yeah,
reached a lot of money. Absolutely, they can claim that it's AAA. They got a lot of money backing this project.
I think it's like 400,000 right now, 500,000.
Mm.
So it's like the second I see crowdfunding, and AAA, that's like fucking yeah. I don't know if AAA and crowdfunding go together all that well, but shit, times change, man. Times change. Like
Mm,
Psychonauts 2, you know what I mean? That started off as a crowdfunding initiative before Microsoft came in and bought up Double Fine. So times are definitely changing. You're talking ex EA, ex UB talent. That maybe this could be something AAA. But I just want to reiterate because I've seen a lot of people talking about, oh shit, we're getting Marvel 1943, the new Star Wars game
no.
from Amy Hennig, and an Invincible. No, it's not going to be on that scale. I can guarantee you it will not be on that scale.
Do we know the genre of game?
I don't think they said anything about that. I'll go and look it up real
Because
quick.
what worries me is that it would be extremely difficult. Because I've also seen very little of the show, but I kind of know like the premise. I don't know if you could make that into like a single player game. It feels like it would fit more into like a Jump Force game. I think if they go down that route, that's going to piss a lot of people off. But surely, like if it's being crowdfunded, there has to be some information on the genre. They can't expect people to be forking up money if there's no information whatsoever on what, because they it could be a mobile gacha game for all they know.
Yeah, this IGN article is saying it's a 30-person studio formed to develop a AAA title. That in and of itself, I mean,
That's
hey, maybe.
hey man, that's good luck. Um,
I'll read off their full statement. We're thrilled to launch this regulation crowdfunding campaign on Republic, inviting fans to join us on this new expansion and venture. CEO of Skybound Entertainment, David Alper, said, "At Skybound, we prioritize fostering meaningful connections with our audience, and this initiative allows fans to not only immerse themselves in the world of Invincible, but also to directly contribute to its expansion." Huh. That kind of I, I think it's kind of nothing speak really. The new Invincible video game is to be developed by an internal 30-person studio consisting of industry vets previously employed at studios including Activision, Blizzard, EA, and Epic. This is not the first video game set in the Invincible universe. Other projects include visual novel RPG, yada yada yada. The announcement comes weeks after the Invincible TV series released its season 2 finale, though Prime Video has yet to share a release window for the third. Okay, okay, come on. Um, I go on to talk
what's the
about
genre, guys? Come on, stop
th
delaying.
there's nothing. There's no genre mentioned at all.
I can't fathom that. Then who in their right mind forks over money for a crowdfunder without you? That's the thing that annoys me of crowdfunders and why they get such bad reps. It's because people don't look into what they're giving their money to then. So
So
if this happens and this bombs and this isn't what you expect it to be, and you've given money to, that's on you, man. Like they've given you nothing but the IP.
most crowdfunded video games are centered around indie games, and retail investors rarely have the opportunity to get in on the ground floor of AAA game publishers. No shit. Skybound is developing a highly produced, high-octane bloodbath that is anything but indie. So they won't commit to a genre, but high-octane bloodbath, that sounds like an action game of some sort, like
Or
real
a battle
controller.
royale.
Yeah. Our bona fide global hit IP Invincible is at the center, and we have handpicked our own team consisting of more than 30 gaming industry veterans to make it happen. Da, 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 da. How's da, 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 da. No, there's nothing. They don't say anything at all about
That's
the.
shocking to me.
Yeah,
That,
it's
to me,
insane.
that's yeah, like I said, that's shocking. I don't understand how you can announce a game and not tell the fan base what it is going to be, or even just a rough idea. Like that's red flags to me right away.
Yeah, it even more is like just more vagity is like they is vagity's a word? Vagities?
Vagueness.
Vagueness? Vague? What is the word of something itties? Vague?
I have no idea.
I don't know what the fuck I'm saying, but it's more vague statements here. It says if you follow the show, you can imagine exactly what to expect from this video game. Tons of action, stunning game and character design, and of course a healthy dose of blood. Uh,
Oh
okay.
my God, if it's gonna be like a 2D fighter.
Oh boy, yeah,
Oh
right.
my God.
Hey man, I don't know. We'll see what ends up happening with it. I doubt it's going to be anything just crazy, crazy, crazy. But I will say that first episode of the show was pretty fucking wild. The end was just so sick.
It's
But
it's a beloved series. It's what worries me. Like these things that start off small, because like the boys as well started off as like a comic book series, landed that Amazon deal, and I don't think you've seen it yourself.
I haven't.
It's so damn good.
I really
Like
want to watch it.
it's so brutal and so unhinged, and it is just like the epitome of adult superheroes, of how you would expect them to actually function. Like there's none of this Marvel BS where everybody's heroic and righteous. No, it's just scumbags, deals under the table and everything, and it's just people being absolute heinous individuals, and they're just hunting them down one by one. It's amazing.
You gotta imagine we're getting a game of that at some point. That sounds so,
I
dude.
Yeah, I'm surprised it hasn't been announced. Like
Yeah,
it has so much power behind it. But then again, like I felt the same with Peaky Blinders, and all that got was some crappy isometric puzzle game. And it's just like, nah, that's not what you need to be delivering. You need to be delivering like a Mafia game, guys. Like this ain't it.
totally. Yeah, there's so many TV shows I'm so far behind on, man. Shogun, I want to watch that. Severance, I haven't watched that. Yellowstone, haven't watched that. Reacher, fucking um Stranger Things,
Yeah,
Ozark,
I've
like
not
I haven't
seen
watched.
Stranger Things either. There are some like me even like I want to I've started like Sopranos in like the past 2 years and like keep stop start
Dude, it's so
because it's
good.
just so hard to balance the time. Like you're talking an hour each episode, and then you got games being rammed down your throat on a weekly basis, and it's just like, yeah,
Yeah. I've given up totally on I've already given up on wrestling. I, I I I really can
that
only
was like
play
what, two
games.
weeks?
Yeah. I'll check back in every now and then. Like if I'm free 7 o'clock Monday or Friday, I'll jump back in. But dude, the only way that this show is gonna function and continue to run is if I pretty much don't consume anything but video games. There's only so much damn time in a day. But in terms of consuming video games this year, we have another one that we shall be consuming. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, announced and slated for a 2024 release date. Loon, I know this is your shit. This is your go-to, and I think you got a big one. You got a big one dropping this year.
I'm shocked at the announcement of it
Same.
being that like quick of a turnover. Like what I wrote down here is like we need more of this. We need
Yes.
more of keep it under the wraps. Like everybody could guess it. Like that's the difference. We all knew it existed without them having to announce it. And that's so much different than them announcing it and waiting.
Totally,
Like that's a
dude.
massive, massive difference. Like it's when they are ready to announce it, give it to us. And watch the it was like 15 minutes
I
like
did too.
breakdown and stuff. Like the original combat in the game from the first game, it had combos, but they were very, very stiff and very sluggish. Dude, that combat looks so damn good.
It looks
It's
great.
so more snappy and like it makes sense when you actually look at it from like the perspective of the game. Like in the first game, maybe it was deliberate. He's a peasant, he's only just started. Even him
Right.
training with a sword, he's gonna be arse. Like you could get fairly competent, but you're always gonna be fairly like you could still get whomped. He's now under the wing of Sir Hans. They're on this diplomatic mission. He's as close as he possibly could be to a fully fledged knight. He's older now. It looks like it it just looks so good. That combat's so gritty.
Yes. Yeah, dude. I thought this trailer looked excellent. Obviously, I haven't played the first one. I'm gonna watch a story recap. I'm jumping straight into this. I'm jumping straight into part two. What they were saying in that And they just seem so passionate. Those developers seem like they want to be working on this game. They want to be working on this IP. And
Mhm.
the statement of like this is everything that the first game should have been. I think they said exactly that or something to that effect. Whereas like this is what the first game what we wanted to do with the first game, I think. So it's just to me, and they also said that this is a good jumping off point for new fans somehow, which is kind of crazy, but
Because that first get like it really isn't a spoiler. Like you would think like a story it would spoil, but it the whole first game is just tragedy happens at the beginning. You're a blacksmith's son, the sword gets stolen, you're on the run. Your whole job is to just get that sword back. You're chasing down these bandits and everything, and these bandits have associations with people who are usurping the king and stuff like that. They've kidnapped him. And that is all that you don't even get the sword at the end. Like it's like a 40-hour fetch quest. You don't even get to fetch that's you're going into this second game to get that sword still. Like that's crazy.
That's
And
so funny.
it's just that first game felt like a basis and a foundation for the historic time period. Placing these characters in, showing the beginning of their journey along with Henry. And this second game is going full throttle now. It's going in with all the action, impact, gameplay, and hopefully resolution to the story. Jesus Christ. You get one good nugget of like story resolution and the rest is just cliffhanger kind of thing. So
Dude, yeah, I'm pumped for you. I'm pumped because you put in what, close to 100 hours, like 70 hours, something like that.
yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is going to be a very welcome payoff. I would hope, but it just looks so good, dude. The idea that they're talking about with, you know, this reactive Red Dead 2 style world where whatever you do in the towns, the people will remember when you come back to it. Like, yeah, dude, sign me
I,
the fuck up.
I have a mild story of that. You'd have the map in the first game and it was all like hand drawn and stuff. And the fast travel of the first game was you couldn't fast travel anywhere. It had to be to like a big landmark, and then you would follow Henry's little like chess piece on the road, and as you'd get to like V points in the road and stuff like that, it could sometimes roll like a random encounter, and you could have like ambush and bandits, or there's a dead body and stuff like this. And there was one where it was a wandering knight who would challenge you to a duel. The reason I've built this up is because in the early game, there is no way you're beating this guy at all. He will wipe the floor with you. So you obviously go into this interaction and he's like, challenge me to a duel. And you're like, no. And he's like, okay. And then he'll turn around and all you have to do is crouch down and you can just choke him out. And the thing that made like people like that I was talking to at the time laugh is that he doesn't react to this. I did this to him like 8 times in the play. Never fought him once. He was just like, it's you again. Would you like a duel? And it's just like, nah, man, I'm good. And then he's like, okay. And he turns around, he gets knocked out again. I strip him of all of his armor and clothes and everything. And it's just like, you need a system there to be like, when he sees you next, he's like, wait, that's my sword and armor, you little bastard.
Right.
What's up with that? I
Yeah.
challenge you to an honorable duel and you knock me out.
And that kind of leans into the reactionary content of the second game. Hopefully those kind of
Yeah.
that not cleaned up, but you know what I mean, just kind of accounted for a
The
bit
world
more.
reacting to your decisions, like with Baldur's Gate and stuff, getting that level of interactability and just if I knock that guy out and I don't kill him, for instance, and I end up running into him down the line and I'm wearing his armor, he's not gonna be like, "You're right, Henry. How you doing, bud? Do you wanna duel?" He's gonna be like, "Dude, you knocked me out. You left me in the wilderness naked, alone and afraid.
Totally,
What
dude.
the hell?"
Well, and that kind of goes on to what they were talking about, where they said you can be like this sweet talker who can talk their way out of any problem, or you can be a thief who can, you know, you can rob anybody, you can be a warrior. And it's like this dude can kind of mold into any different play style. And it's not like you're picking an archetype, you're just doing it. And that's what you're
Yeah.
going to do based on your actions, which is so sick.
that was in the first game as well. You could talk your way out of 90% of things, but that's what irritated me, is that there was one heavily forced fight,
Mm.
which it made no sense at all. It was the dumbest thing. It was you storm a camp, and then Henry gets the bright idea of instead of all of us beating the shit out of this captain, I'm gonna go a one-on-one Thunderdome him. No, Henry, my dude. No, this is like some cutthroat bandit leader. He's gonna kick your and he does. Like if you've just been breezing through and talking your way through things, your combat skills are arse. You go in there, he will just one shot you. He'll just hit you with the pommel of his sword and just kick your head in. So they they need to do something with that. Maybe have that thing of like being able to talk your way out of every situation. I know it's unrealistic in a lot of things, but you have these archetypes. You need to be able to say like if somebody's fully invested in speech and nothing in combat, that's impossible for them to beat the game in that first game. They can't.
Right.
They would get to that area and they would be like, this is hopeless. I can't do anything." And that is what a lot of people experienced and ended up shutting the game off. And I can understand that. That would annoy me.
Right. Yeah, they talked about like some of the silly shit as well with the dialogue encounters and just the talking about when you're running around the town naked,
Yeah.
people look at you and talk shit to you, and you can like talk shit back to them or be like, I'm sorry, I left my clothes back at the whatever." Like it's cool that they really seem to be leaning into that accountability for okay, I'm in this weird spot, people are gonna react to me, I got to respond to them. Like I don't know this. Listen, I didn't really have any interest in the first game. I just thought it looked a little bit janky, and pretty much everything I heard about it was like it's so fucking systems driven, so cool, but also so janky. Like I constantly heard jank, 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 jank. So it's like if this can come out and not be janky, which it seems to kind of not. I'm sure it'll have some jank, but like if
Yeah.
it can be cleaner and more of like a decent seamless experience to go through, I'm there. I'm there day one on this
Yeah.
thing,
I
man.
hope the combat's polished up a little bit more. Do we know what engine it's running on?
I don't
Because
know.
the original was Cry Engine, and that's why it kind of felt a little bit clunky at parts.
Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 engine. Let's see if we Unreal Engine now follows Warhorse Studios, suggesting Kingdom Come. Okay, so this is
Yeah,
just speculation. This is on Reddit. It says Unreal Engine now follows Warhouse Studios on Twitter, suggesting Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 could use Unreal Engine. That I don't know.
that's just a grain of speculation that doesn't confirm. I do hope it's probably Unreal though, because it will allow for
Yeah.
a lot more fluid combat. Because it did feel a lot stiff, and with that, with the cutscene stuff and the stuff that they showed, it does feel a lot more crisp.
Well, and the thing I'm also wondering, we've seen like a lot of these games announced for 2024, but it's actually early access. You think this is a full launch, right? Like it's not going to launch into early access in 2024 and then come out 2025 or something.
I don't think the first game did early access.
Cool.
It needed a heavy amount of patches, like big time. So that might be the case. But maybe it will need less if it's just the PS5 Series X release.
Dope. Yeah.
Just letting the cat out.
Oh, you're good, man. Um, yeah, dude, I'm really damn excited for this game. I
That's Kingdom Come 2, right? Still.
yeah,
You
Kingdom.
didn't move on.
No, yeah, I'm really I'm pumped for Kingdom Come 2, man. I really want to I want to dive into this. I want to really give it a go. I'll watch a story recap and just kind of jump into it. But this trailer, it looks absolutely excellent. And yeah, obviously I'll have it rolling on the screen so that everybody can see it. Is there anything in particular that we haven't touched on that you're wanting to see from Kingdom Come 2?
No, I have full faith in them to because they love, like you said, they're excited about it. They're really, really, really big history buffs.
Yeah.
Like you're talking in the first game, if you walked past because all of them were real places. This isn't like made up
It's Bohemia,
stuff.
right? The second
Yep,
game? Yeah.
yep. So you would reach like I'm drawing a blank on the name of the city now, like the big city, and it would have a codex thing pop up. You'd be able to open that up, and it would have pages
Mm.
of historical information and stuff, and the characters that you're meeting would be like I think they mildly changed the names, but they're all based on real people and follow like mostly what they did at the time. So other than your character, everybody else around you technically existed in some capacity, and they've maybe mildly changed their story, but a lot of it is based in truth, and that's really really cool.
What do you think about this idea of the game being twice as big as the first? Because the first is already 70 hours. Like,
Right. The thing that annoyed me the most about the first game is that you build up to this climax, and then right at the very end, just as you're about to like finish it all up, you get like all the factions come together and they're like, hurrah, let's do this. And then they're like, all right, Henry, we need to prepare. Can you go to this city, this city, this city, this city, and this city? Go back to all these places that you already visited and do like an hour's worth of questing in each of them cities. And it's just like, no, no, not really. Like, I don't really want to be doing that. I'd rather just like wrap up this story that you've just put on like a pedestal and now you're just nothing's happening.
well, they talked about having twice as many cutscenes as well, so it's going to be like 5 hours of cutscenes, which is great.
Yeah, and the cutscenes were incredible. Like, credit to them. Like, I'd happily welcome that on. But with the twice as big thing, as long as it doesn't pull that thing of at the very end, just before the climax, go back and visit. No, don't do that again, please. That really, really annoyed me and
Yeah.
heavily like marked the game down. Like if I was to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, that lost one whole point
Yeah.
level of stuff because it was that monotonous. Because
Yeah.
it wasn't just like go here and pick up like a bag of coal and bring it back. Like it was go here because a lot of their quests it's tied to like actual time. So it was like go here, you need to be here at midnight for this specific thing at the start of the quest, and then you need to do this at like 6 in the morning and stuff. So it just felt like busy work.
Yeah. That was the thing with Grand Theft Auto San Andreas that really bummed me out, where you had to go back to Grove Street and there's like all this turf war shit going on that takes like 3 hours, 4 hours to get to the actual finale of the game because of that. Dude,
Yep.
it's interesting. Like I'm seeing I'm drawing a lot of comparisons to Dragon's Dogma 2 with this game. Like obviously totally different kind of style of RPG, but talking about, we're making this game in 2024 and it's kind of what we envisioned the first game could possibly be. And I don't know, it's interesting that these two games that are both cult hits, they are finding what they think that their game should have been all along. And they're both releasing in 2024. I'm hoping that this has that kind of same level of, which I think Kingdom Come 1 sold like 10 million copies. So I guess
Yeah, it was very, very successful for what it was, considering it was like almost entire. I think it was entirely Kickstarted, was it not?
I think
Like the
so.
base funding. So for how many copies it sold, yeah, it was incredible.
Yeah, I believe so. So I mean, I was gonna say I hope it has similar success, but it's probably gonna be even more successful than fucking Dragon's Dogma 2. I wish I would have knew about this before we made our predictions last week of the best-selling games, because Kingdom Come 2 might be up there.
Yeah, well, at the same time, I welcome announcing this at this time in the year and being like, yeah, it's coming out in like a few months. So
Yeah, for sure.
I'll take getting a prediction list wrong.
Absolutely. Um, you got crossbows and early firearms in this as well. So like,
Yeah, I'm not sure about the firearms, if I'm being honest,
right.
because the bow combat in the first game was really wonky. Like the majority of people would like describe it as you were a meth addict. Like you would
Ah,
wobble and shake so much as trying to
oh
pull back the string and
man.
stuff. So that's kind of worrying. A crossbow, obviously, the whole point of a crossbow is that anybody can use it. That's why they were used in war. It's just pull the thing back, and there you go. And you put it in anybody's hands, and you just pull the trigger, as it were. The
Right.
firearm thing, I reckon, is going to be quite clunky.
I could see that.
But it's interesting addition. You're adding more ways of interacting with the world and combat and stuff. So obviously, I welcome it, but I think that's probably going to disappoint a lot of people.
Well, speaking of disappointing, The
Oh
Wolf
no.
Among Us 2. I can't say disappoint. I'm happy that this thing at least has a pulse. At least it's still it might be on life support, but it's still breathing. Telltale had this to say about the game after Keeley revealed some screenshots of it. We've been quiet because we've been heads down focusing on the promise of The Wolf Among Us 2. While we can't give a big update yet, here's a little something for you in progress shots from the current build. The work continues. The Fabletown gang will be back. Thanks for being fans. And then they also stated the game has entered production.
Yeah, that's the big worry thing, is that that opening statement makes you think that maybe it's been chugging along this whole time. That completely gives the opposite opinion of it saying it's entered production. That feels like all these years that it's been around, just concepts that they've been throwing around.
Yeah.
Maybe story writing and stuff like that, and maybe artwork. There's no skeleton structure that's been put in place, which is very worrying because then that means okay, it's just begun production now. You're talking like 3 years, maybe from now, maybe.
I'm hoping that they like count pre-production as some sort of like okay, we were using pre-production to find out how we were going to build this game. We got a good idea, a good format, a good foundation, and now in production we're really full speed ahead, like we're cranking this thing out now in full production. But I'm not confident in that either.
I have I have no idea. It feels like it's not going to be a Telltale game for sure. This, from what I've seen, the little snippets, this feels more like it's going to be way more cinematic, like almost like a Detroit Become Human kind of thing. On that's what they're aiming the scale for. I don't
Right.
think they're going to play it safe. I think they're going like full force with this because there's no way that in all of these years they wouldn't have been able to put something out like the original Wolf Among Us by now. That's not a
Dude,
knock against the game. They were incredible games, and I love the Wolf Among Us one. But this that making something ever so slightly better than that wouldn't take this long.
yeah, I mean, they had the mass layoffs. They obviously Telltale got shut down and got reopened and like they've gone through the ringer and then whatever I guess they got contracted out to do the expanse. So there's been roadblocks in the way of the Wolf Among Us 2, but I tend to agree. Like it just I wouldn't imagine it would take this long. But if it is going to be something where they push the bounds of technology and really try to create some Detroit Become Human style visual showpiece or just this very much broader scale, bigger project, dude, fuck yeah. Sign me up for that. Absolutely. But not a lot that really can even be glean from this. I'm hoping that we get like a Summer Game Fest reveal, Keeley show, get a just go ahead and say 2025. You know what I mean? Like if because at this point they've said 2022, they said 2023, they
Yeah.
said 2024. Just throw
Just give yourself
2025
a
on there.
wide window. And for the love of God, don't make it episodic. Don't kill this
Yes.
series. Don't don't do that. Just stop. Just stop with the whole episodic crap. It doesn't work. It just doesn't
No.
work.
Well, that's a big reason why the Expanse really didn't
E-
land.
exactly. Nobody
Because
wants, even if it's just like a week, 2 weeks in between each thing, the gaming sphere moves at a constant rate. Very few times where you put something out, unless it's a live service game, you're not going to go back to it. You're not going to go back to it for a few years at the very least. Like some of the favorite games, you don't play Mass Effect every single like 4 months, 5 months.
no.
It just doesn't happen.
Yeah. No, and you're not gonna remember what the fuck was going on. That was the thing with me where I was like, man, what the fuck did I do in the last game? You know what I mean? Like I have horrible short-term memory though, so I guess that's a me problem. But the episode 3 of The Expanse was really good, but I imagine a lot of people just got to episode 2 and was like, ah, fuck. Or just didn't end up picking it up at all, and I don't know.
I'm still yet to start it, and I purchased like it on sale. It went on sale really early and for really cheap, so you could tell that it didn't sell any units whatsoever.
yeah, I don't I've said many times on the channel that I'm not all that optimistic about the future of Telltale. I don't really see any world where they're going to be around for much longer, unfortunately. I don't say that like I love Telltale. I want them to be around forever. I love their games. I love that style of adventure game. I think it is the like premier best way to make an adventure game. Like, just cut out a lot of the bullshit, get you to what the people actually want. Um, but hey, the screenshots from what I looked at definitely looked like The Wolf
Mm.
Among Us. You know what I mean? It art style has not changed much at all, which I'm fine with. I don't need a, total overhaul to the engine. I don't need more gameplay thrown in there. If it is, cool, I'll take it. If not, if it is just more straight up The Wolf Among Us, I'll happily I'll happily take that as well. But Loon, that is the entirety of our show, man. Those are all the news stories. Pretty big news week, pretty big game week. Got a fairly lengthy episode for you all. So I hope y'all enjoy it. Timestamps. Use the timestamps. I've been telling people,
Mm.
use the timestamps, man. That's how I watch all of my podcasts. I use the timestamps. The Last Stand stuff, they got fucking 5-hour podcasts and shit. I'm always using timestamps, listening to what I want to listen to, bouncing that. Like, it's just, I look at long content as like multiple videos. You know what I mean? Like, I'll, okay.
It's like a book, each chapter.
Yeah, but there's chapters that you can skip and it's totally fine. It doesn't mess up the book at all. That's the cool thing about this. That's the cool thing about podcasts is like just dive into the shit you find interesting and don't listen
Yeah.
to the other shit. Like, dude, I I would never listen to my favorite podcasts in the world. Like, I don't listen to every fucking minute of that. I listen to the shit that I find interesting. So I recommend all of you to do the same. Just dive into the shit you find interesting, man. No, no, I don't mind at all. I recommend, highly recommend skipping shit from this podcast and listening to the stuff
Skipping
that
my opinions and sticking with his.
no, man. It's just the topics. It's the topics more than anything. Just the topics that you think are more up your alley. Like if you don't have any interest in The Wolf
If you don't want
Among
to
Us.
listen to me ramble about Baldur's Gate 3 for like 40 minutes, absolutely skip it.
I mean, dude, yeah, any game that you don't find interest in, just skip that shit, bounce to the next one. Any story, if you find more interest in Kingdom Come 2 than The Wolf Among Us, listen to the Kingdom Come 2 shit and avoid The Wolf Among Us. Like I do that for literally my absolute favorite podcasts on the planet. I can't tell you the last time unless like comedy podcasts and shit that aren't topic based, but like video game podcasts, stuff like that, wrestling pod, like I listen to the shit that I'm interested in and I skip the shit that I'm not. There's no harm in doing that whatsoever. So that's why the timestamps are there. You are absolutely, I highly recommend jump around, check out all the check out all the shit you want to check out. Don't check out the shit you don't want to check out. But Loon, appreciate you for joining me here for this very lengthy discussion about the video games. And we shall be back with you next week, my good people. You got any parting words for the good people at home?
No, just enjoy whatever you're playing and yeah, drop any comments below about any of the topics and obviously we'll both bounce in there and continue the discussion.
Absolutely. Like, subscribe, all that shit if you feel so inclined to, and we shall see you on the other side. Goodbye.